Chapter 60, You all come to see Chief Li, and you all call her Yi. Can't you all change your names? Afterwards, Li Yun returned to Ren 95 Institute. However, he did not expect that because he became the chief of the Ren class. His fellow disciples in the Ren 95 Academy were extremely enthusiastic towards him, and even disciples from the neighboring 94 and 96 academies kept coming to visit him. The entire Ren 95 compound was completely blocked. As a result, the disciples of Ren 95 Academy were unable to cultivate normally. To avoid causing trouble for others, Li Yun made an excuse and slipped away, returning to Zhang Kong's Cang Yun residence. And at this moment, Zhang Kong gave him another surprise. That was a separate residence. This is permitted by the sect rules and is provided by the outer sect elders' hall. After all, there are 100,000 outer disciples, and from the first year of the Jiazi year to the first year of the Gizi year, there are only 10 chief disciples in total. To set an example and inspire other outer disciples, providing each chief disciple with an independent residence is nothing special for the outer disciples. But for Li Yun, this was a huge surprise. To be honest, he had long been fed up with the noise of 100 people living in one courtyard and 7 or 8 people sharing one room. Moreover, he had a secret, which sometimes made it very inconvenient for him to cultivate. Now that I have my own independent place to live, all these inconveniences no longer exist. The place Zhang Kong chose for him was less than a mile west of Cang Yun residence. It was a small courtyard with its own wall, and an archway in the middle divided the courtyard into 2 sections. The total area is approximately 700 or 800 square meters. It has everything you need, including greenery, and is arranged in a quiet and elegant manner. Living alone, it's already quite spacious. This made Li Yun feel a little self-deprecating. Damn it! In his previous life, he was just a corporate slave who couldn't even afford a down payment on a house. But less than a month after transmigrating, he's already living in a detached house. Sure enough, martial arts are damn omnipotent. That evening, Li Yun decisively moved into the independent courtyard he named Yaoyunzaya Aju. It feels completely different from a crowded dormitory room where 8 people share one. No more being bothered by other people's snoring. The most important thing is cultivation. The very night he moved in, he had no more reservations and began practicing the reverse fate technique again. It's a pity. The effect was noticeably less than before. After half an hour, I did feel much better, but there was no significant improvement in my physical condition. Li Yun pondered for a long time and felt that his understanding of the reverse fate technique was still not deep enough. The current level is proficient. If I want to make a significant improvement in my aptitude, I may need to further improve the reverse fate technique to the minor mastery level. Reaching the minor mastery level not only makes the technique more perfect, but also allows one to experience more of the mysteries of the reverse fate technique. The problem is that there are just too many points to understand. At this moment, Li Yun's knowledge points on his panel are only around 1.4 million, even after he has mastered the Zhenyu Mountain Sword and made some progress. With this limited understanding, it's clearly insufficient to elevate the reverse fate technique to a minor level of mastery. This martial art is too bizarre and requires too many cognitive points. From complete beginner to beginner, 10,000. From beginner to expert, 100,000. From beginner to expert, 1 million. Damn it, it's a 10x multiplier. To reach the minor mastery level at this rate, it would cost 10 million. Where does he get so many insights from now? Wait, ancient sword. Suddenly, Li Yun remembered something and quickly took out the ancient sword that had recognized him as its master. Upon closer inspection, his eyes immediately lit up. After the ancient sword recognizes its master, it does not affect his ability to observe and gain knowledge points. He can still gain 200 points per second, which is 720,000 per hour. That means, as long as he can endure the loneliness. If you study it intently for more than 10 hours, you can get 10 million knowledge points. Depend on. Get it? Now I live in a private courtyard, undisturbed, and don't need to think about anything. Li Yun simply picked up the ancient sword, sat down cross-legged, and began to observe it. The recognition points on the panel also began to increase at a rate of 200 points per second. Night was falling. Huang Yi quietly arrived at the entrance of Ren 95 courtyard. Seeing that there were still disciples of Ren 95 Academy diligently practicing stance training in the open gate, he composed himself to make himself look more attractive, and then walked in with an air of nonchalance. "Greetings, everyone. Is Li Yun here?" It was quite unusual for a beautiful female disciple to come to Li Yun alone late at night, but the disciples of Ren 95 Academy had already become accustomed to it, and even found it somewhat amusing. "Who are you, and what do you want with Chief Li?" "He, you wouldn't be going to claim to be Chief Li's fiancé too, would you?" Huang Yi's expression changed immediately. "What are you talking about?" "My name is Huang Yi. I am Li Yun's fiancé. We grew up together. If you don't believe me, you can call Li Yun out for me and you'll see." "Come on, including you, 17 people have come today claiming to be Chief Li's childhood sweetheart and fiancé. There are already 3 named Yi, such as Chen Yi, Wu Yi, and now there's Huang Yi. It's ridiculous. Can't you guys change your names?" Huang Yi was so angry she was about to bleed. She finally understood. After Li Yun became the chief of the Ren class, a large group of female disciples came to approach her, some even impersonating her, hopping to attract her attention. "They're all lowly servants." "No, they're all fake. I'm the real one. If you don't believe me, go and call Li Yun out for me." "Why should I call for you?" Zhang Chu, who happened to be walking out of the room, recognized Huang Yi as soon as he saw her. However, he would never admit that he knew Huang Yi. He took 2 steps forward, looked at her from a distance, and said sarcastically, "Chief Li has already moved out of Ren 95 courtyard. You all claim to be his childhood sweethearts and fiancés, but you don't even know where he lives. How dare you come to Ren 95 courtyard looking for him? Hurry up and leave. Don't come and disturb our Ren 95 Academy's cultivation so late at night." "It's you. I recognize you. Aren't you the one who went to the inner sect with Li Yun? Tell me quickly, where does Li Yun live?" Huang Yi suddenly recognized Zhang Chu and hurriedly ran towards him. Zhang Chu quickly dodged. "Who are you? I don't know you. If you want to climb the social ladder, go find someone else. Don't come here and cause trouble for the people of Ren 95 Institute." "That's right, get out. Get out of here. People like you aren't welcome in our Ren 95 Institute." Huang Yi was stunned. She never dreamed that the people from Ren 95 Academy would be so united in attacking her, and she felt extremely humiliated. She glared at Zhang Chu fiercely. "You just wait. Once I find Li Yun, I'll make you pay." Only then did he run out of the Ren 95 compound in shame and indignation. Zhang Chu curled his lip in disdain. "You think you can make me look bad? You're nothing." Chapter 62, Defying Fate to a Minor Success, Talent Improves Again, Zhang Chu is being followed. The sky was bright. It was already the morning of the 2nd day. Li Yun moved his body, which was sore and stiff from sitting cross-legged for 14 hours, and a look of joy appeared on his face. The total number of cognitive points on the panel has reached 11.48 million. It's over 10 million. Continuing to improve, reverse fate technique is definitely enough. Li Yun quickly got up, made himself some food, and after filling his stomach, sat down again. Directly enhances reverse fate technique. As expected, the reversal of fate technique took him 10 million knowledge points to go from the proficient level to the minor mastery level. However, the results were also quite remarkable. This level seems to be a crucial one. After reaching the minor success stage, The mysteries of the reverse fate technique that emerged in his mind were at least 3 times greater than those in the previous stages of beginner, initial success, and proficiency combined. This not only deepened Li Yun's understanding of the reverse fate technique, but also brought about a near fundamental change in the reverse fate technique that Li Yun was practicing. After just one formal training session, which took only an hour, his aptitude rose directly from the lower 4th rank to the lower 3rd rank. It's been upgraded by a whole grade. With a rank 3 talent, Li Yun is considered top tier even among ordinary people. Even without the system, he could achieve considerable success in the outer sect based on his own talent. At the very least, becoming a true Qi realm-acquired martial artist in this lifetime is no problem at all. However, Li Yun soon discovered that the burden on his body from the reversal of fate technique at the minor completion stage was not as intense as before, and he could practice it twice in a day without any problem. So, after resting for a while, he practiced it a second time. The result was a pleasant surprise. His aptitude, which was below the 3rd rank, actually improved again and reached the middle of the 3rd rank. His condition is far better than before. From the initial 5th grade aptitude to the current 3rd grade aptitude, this is truly a defying fate. In fact, after his aptitude improved one after another, Li Yun actually vaguely felt that his body seemed to have undergone some kind of wonderful sublimation, which was a sublimation at the level of the essence of life. Unfortunately, this feeling was too faint. Moreover, Li Yun was only a body-tempering realm martial artist after all, and he didn't have much knowledge about something as profound as the essence of life. If you asked him to describe exactly what kind of sublimation it was, he couldn't give a clear answer. However, there is one point. When he resumed practicing the primordial stance to consolidate his cultivation, he was surprised to find that the upper limit of the 13th level of body tempering had been broken. After practicing diligently for a while, the primordial true meaning attracted all kinds of spiritual energy to temper the body, refining it inside and out. After another transformation, the strength of this body actually increased by 1/3. 3,000 jin of strength has become 4,000 jin. Their physique is also tough and sturdy, giving them an indestructible feel. Pick up a small stone from the ground at random, and with a slight squeeze, easily crush it into numerous small pieces. If combined with the subtle power of silk entangling force, he could even crush stones into tiny grains of sand. He then practiced each of the martial arts techniques he currently knew one by one. Li Yun came to a conclusion. Very strong. Outrageously strong. The improvement in his basic cultivation level nearly doubled his overall strength. If he were given another chance to fight Wu Yuikong, he was confident that he could kill Wu Yuikong within 3 moves, leaving Wu Yuikong no chance whatsoever. So Li Yun simply stopped accepting it. After carefully calculating the remaining knowledge points on the panel, I immediately got to work and continued to upgrade all the skills that had not yet been sublimated, including silk reeling force, flying star step, tiger subduing fist, and eagle claw skill. It only consumes 400,000 cognition points. These several high-grade martial arts techniques for the body tempering realm have all been mastered to the point of containing a true essence of martial arts. This will significantly boost his overall combat strength. Taking that unlucky guy Wu Yuikong as a reference, it was originally said that 3 more moves would be enough to kill him, but now 2 moves are enough. He can basically launch a preemptive attack with 1 move and kill him directly with another. In this way, currently, the only martial arts techniques I know are Sorrowful Wind Sword technique and Mount Zhenyu sword, and I am only at the beginner level. However, both of these martial arts are at the innate level. Without innate true qi, even if one improves their cultivation level, it won't be of any use for the time being, so Li Yun decided to put it aside for the time being. Save the remaining points of knowledge for later. The only goal now is to continue gaining knowledge points using the ancient sword. After all, given the terrifying 10-fold multiplier for advancing the reverse fate technique to its highest level, it would likely require a small goal's worth of knowledge points to further elevate the reverse fate technique to the level of mastery. This is seriously terrifying. However, he was soon pleasantly surprised. With his aptitude reaching the middle of the third rank, his efficiency in observing ancient swords has increased from 200 points per second to 500 points per second, which is 2.5 times the original. With this efficiency boost, and the ancient sword in hand, I can earn 1.8 million in an hour. Observing for 10 hours, a day would amount to 18 million. A small goal, only 6 days, not long and very promising. Nothing to do. Li Yun didn't plan to wander around aimlessly anymore, so he simply stayed at Yaoyanzaya Aju to observe the ancient sword. It wasn't until evening that this happened. Zhang Chu, however, sneaked in stealthily. As soon as he walked in, he started making a lot of noise. "Wow, boss, your place is so peaceful and secluded, I'm so envious. Look at my eyes, they're all red." Li Yun glanced at him, then stood up, gripping the ancient sword. "You have conjunctivitis, it's incurable, a terminal illness. They'll have to gouge your eyes out, or I can do it for you." Zhang Chu immediately shrank back. "Holy crap, boss, you can't be this cruel. I was just joking with you and you want to gouge out my eyes. Can't we even hang out anymore? And yet I even saved you from a huge problem." Li Yun was taken aback. "You shielded me from a huge problem. What kind of problem?" Zhang Chu shrugged. "What else could it be? Huang Yi, of course. She went to Ren 95 Academy to look for you last night, but I chased her away with the other disciples." "Oh, you mean her?" "Yes." "Sorry, I don't know him." "Zhang Chu." He almost choked to death. Damn, this boss's skin is really thick. He acts all high and mighty with others, and he acts all high and mighty with us too. "Don't look at me like that, I really don't know her." Huh. The words had barely left his mouth. Li Yun's face turned gloomy. He turned his head and saw Huang Yi appear at the archway connecting the front yard. "Li Yun, I haven't even congratulated you on becoming the chief of the Ren class yet, and I didn't expect you to move to this place. The environment here is really nice." Zhang Chu suddenly turned around and jumped up. He roared furiously. "Huang Yi, you bastard, you actually followed me? Chapter 63, if you won't leave, then call yourself a patrol officer of the punishment hall." Looking at the furious Zhang Chu, Huang Yi's lips curled up slightly, feeling a sense of vengeful pleasure. "Zhang Chu, didn't you refuse to tell me where Li Yun lives? Now I've come along myself. You're as stupid as a pig or a dog. If it weren't for your sister Zhang Ruohan being an inner disciple, you'd be nothing." Huang Yi ignored Zhang Chu, raised her head, and walked up to Li Yun with a smile. "Li Yun, it's been a long time. I'm really happy to see that you've made a name for yourself and even become the chief of the Ren class. If your uncle and aunt, as well as my parents, knew this news, they would definitely be proud of you. Besides..." "Stop, there's no more." Li Yun frowned deeply. "Who are you? Do I know you? Did I invite you here? How did you just walk into my place? Don't you have any manners? Do you even remember the rules of the sect? Get out of here right now, or I'll have someone notify the Criminal Investigation Department's patrol. Let's see if you're here to steal or to rob. You'll have to explain yourself to the Criminal Investigation Department then." Huang Yi's smile froze instantly. His face was filled with disbelief. "Li Yun, what are you doing? Stop joking around. It was just a misunderstanding before, but I'm still your fiancé, aren't I? How can you keep pretending you don't know me?" "Okay, if you're still angry about what happened before, then I'll apologize now. I'll say I was wrong, okay? A real man shouldn't lack even this much tolerance, should he?" Li Yun took a deep breath. "Zhang Chu, go out and take a look. Oh no, I'll go by myself." He turned around. Li Yun walked straight out of Yaoyanzaya Aju. As luck would have it, just as he stepped out of the gate, he saw a group of patrol officers from the Criminal Investigation Department. He recognized them. It was the team led by Lin Taishu. Li Yun quickly called out, "Senior brother Lin." Lin Taishu looked over upon hearing the sound, and seeing that it was Li Yun. His eyes lit up. He then hurriedly led his men over. "Li Yun, so you're here. I've been looking for you. I went to Ren 95 courtyard, but they all said you moved away. I then went to Elder Zhang Kong to inquire, and that's when I found out you lived in this area." "Oh, what a coincidence. Senior brother Lin is also looking for me. What's up?" "Actually, it's nothing major. Elder Hai just asked me to come and tell you that Gu Yunzhang, who hired people to harm you, has been expelled from the sect." Li Yun was a little surprised. Expelled from the sect directly? That's serious. Lin Taishu smiled and said, "Strict sect rules are to be expected. People like Gu Yunzhang are not very strong and do not focus on cultivation. They spend their time on all sorts of crooked things. Expelling them as soon as possible is like removing a cancer from the sect in advance." That being said, Lin Taishu couldn't help but sigh. In reality, Gu Yun's argument was nothing. He hadn't actually hurt Li Yun. Under normal circumstances, a sentence of 3 months' imprisonment in the dungeon would be about right. For an outer disciple, losing 3 months of cultivation time is already a very cruel punishment. However, Heifen insisted that it was Gu Yunzhang who caused He Tingfang and Su Yaowu to disappear, which had already caused serious consequences, and forcibly expelled Gu Yunzhang from the sect. After he finished, he specifically asked him to inform Li Yun. Isn't this clearly a sign that Li Yun is being treated differently? Given Hai Fen's attitude, Lin Taishu could almost foresee that as long as Li Yun didn't make any particularly serious mistakes, Hai Fen would probably turn a blind eye to Li Yun's behavior. A new disciple who has been in the outer sect for less than 2 months has actually managed to provoke a bias in an elder of the outer sect's punishment hall, who is known for his strict enforcement of the law. This is truly unbelievable. Anyway, he doesn't know about others. But Lin Taishu himself realized that he should avoid provoking Li Yun in the future. Even if he caught this guy peeping at female disciples taking a bath in the middle of the night, he would have to pretend it was dark and his vision was poor. Cough, cough. The punishment hall is indeed strict in enforcing the law. Li Yun also sensed that Lin Taishu's expression was a bit off, gave an awkward laugh, and quickly changed the subject. "Oh, right, senior brother Lin, I was just about to look for the punishment hall inspector. You've come at the right time. I have a problem here, and I hope senior brother Lin can help me resolve it." Someone else is trying to harm you." Lin Taishu raised an eyebrow, his eyes sharpening. No. It's just that there was a female disciple I didn't know, but she barged into my residence and insisted that she was my fiancé. Tell me, how can this possibly work? I'm clearly not married yet. If she does this to me, won't my reputation be ruined? Due to the strict rules of the sect, I can't just attack my fellow disciples. This is a headache. Upon hearing this, Lin Taishu's expression immediately became extremely strange. Holy crap, is this for real? Why didn't I encounter it? A female disciple came to his door, insisting on becoming his fiancé, but Li Yun still complained. It's true that the well-fed don't know the hunger of the starving. However, he couldn't figure out what Li Yun was thinking, nor could he care. As an inspector of the Criminal Investigation Department, Li Yun had filed a complaint, so he could not ignore it. Okay, so where is she now? Still inside. Okay, then I'll go in and take a look. Without saying a word, Lin Taishu led his men to enter Yaoyun Aju, but then noticed that Li Yun hadn't moved an inch. He couldn't help but ask, "Li Yun, aren't you going in?" "I'll pass. I'll avoid those kinds of people who have unrealistic ideas if I can." Huh? Lin Taishu almost burst out laughing. Could it be that the female disciple was so ugly that Li Yun disliked her so much that he wouldn't even give her a second glance? If that's the case, then that's really bad luck. Lin Taishu suddenly stopped feeling envious. With a dark expression, he strode inside. At this moment, inside the courtyard, Zhang Chu and Huang Yi were still staring at each other. Zhang Chu looked at him with disdain. Give me a break. Li Yun is now the top disciple of the Ren class. There are too many female disciples who want to curry favor with him. They're as beautiful as they come. As for you, you're just a toad trying to eat swan meat. You're delusional. Zhang Chu's words were merciless, infuriating Huang Yi. But she remained shameless. Save your breath. I am Li Yun's fiancé, and no one can change that. Do you think I'll leave just because you're cursing me? Let me tell you, not only will I not leave, I'm going to stay here and take care of Li Yun's daily life. Zhang Chu was also furious at this shameless behavior, and for a moment, he didn't know how to deal with this kind of woman. Fortunately, Lin Taishu arrived at that moment with the inspectors from the Criminal Investigation Department. You bastard. Where did this shameless thing come from, trespassing on someone else's property and acting so self-righteous? Lock her up immediately and take her to the punishment hall. Huang Yi was still gloating when she turned her head and saw that the inspectors from the punishment hall had really arrived. A chill immediately ran down her spine. She knew perfectly well that the inspector from the punishment hall was someone Li Yun had brought in. In an attempt to get rid of her, Li Yun actually went to the inspector of the punishment hall himself. How ruthless is that? Huang Yi was filled with humiliation, and her eyes blazed with anger. Chapter 64. She stubbornly refused to recognize him, so Zhang Ruohan came to ask for help again. Lin Taishu then saw Huang Yi's appearance and thought to himself, she's not ugly at all, so why is Li Yun so disgusted with her? However, on second thought, based on what this woman just said, she's really not someone you can mess with. Anyone who gets involved with her will feel like they're stuck with chewing gum. It's understandable that Li Yun is disgusted with her. He even felt quite admiring of it. To remain unmoved by beauty at such a young age, that kind of self-control truly makes one a natural for martial arts. So he didn't stand on ceremony. With a wave of his hand, he ordered his subordinates, the inspectors of the Criminal Investigation Department, to lock Huang Yi up. The cold iron chains binding her hands seemed to calm Huang Yi down somewhat. He tried to explain himself to Lin Taishu. Fellow disciples of the punishment hall, my name is Huang Yi. I am indeed Li Yun's fiancé. We grew up together and entered the sect together, but we had some misunderstandings recently. But the misunderstanding has been cleared up now. Lin Taishu's expression was somewhat strange. Based on his experience, this Huang Yi in front of him didn't seem to be lying. Could there be something fishy going on here? But then I thought, even if there's something fishy going on, what does it have to do with him? Since Li Yun personally ordered them to kick people out, then let them go. Whatever the shady dealings are, that's their own business. They can figure it out themselves later. Enough with the nonsense. Why do you think we're here? Li Yun has already made it clear that he doesn't know you. Stop making trouble here. If you say another word, we'll consider it as resisting the enforcement of the court. You can decide the consequences yourself. Seeing Lin Taishu's cold gaze, Huang Yi finally chickened out. She didn't want to be dragged to the dungeon. The thought of such a place sent chills down her spine. She suspected that even being sent there for just 2 or 3 days would drive her insane. Left with no other choice, Huang Yi could only bow her head and admit her mistake. Seeing that Huang Yi had backed down, Zhang Chu immediately laughed and started to mock her. Who is it? Everyone wants to curry favor with the powerful. Seeing that Li Yun has become the chief of the Ren class, they all want to rush forward. Don't they even look at their own character? Are they qualified? Oh my God. Huang Yi glared angrily at Zhang Chu, her eyes practically screaming that she wanted to tear him apart alive. Lin Taishu was speechless for a moment. He didn't want to watch them argue here, so he took Huang Yi and walked out of the inner courtyard. We arrived at the entrance of Yaoyanzai Aju. Seeing Li Yun standing there with a smile on his face, Huang Yi couldn't help but say angrily, "Li Yun, just because of such a small misunderstanding. You pretended not to know me, and even sent the criminal investigation team to chase me away. Aren't you too ruthless?" Li Yun looked completely bewildered. "Who exactly are you? I don't know you. I don't understand a single word you're saying. Please don't come here again, otherwise, if anything goes missing from here, I'll blame it all on you. You actually still think I'm a thief?" Huang Yi was so angry, she was practically fuming. Lin Taishu is now certain that the two of them know each other. But Li Yun insisted that he didn't know her, so there was nothing anyone could do. He winked at Li Yun and then forcibly took Huang Yi away. From a distance, Huang Yi was still talking, seemingly explaining something to Lin Taishu and the others. However, Lin Taishu and his group clearly didn't want to pay any attention to them. Li Yun smiled coldly, too lazy to bother with her anymore. If this kind of meddlesome woman dared to cause trouble for him again, he would send her straight to meet the king of hell. However, the thought that this shrew had actually followed Zhang Chu made Li Yun furious again. With a dark expression, he quickly returned to the inner courtyard. He swung his fist, as big as a sandbag, and unleashed a flurry of blows at Zhang Chu. They beat Zhang Chu until he was bruised and swollen, and he lay on the ground, refusing to get up. "You're a complete idiot. Huang Yi is stupid, but you're even stupider than her. In broad daylight, you actually let her follow you. Tell me, aren't you ashamed?" Zhang Chu covered his face, forcing a defense. How was I supposed to know that woman was so calculating, even stalking me? Besides, isn't this also your own fault? Of all people to provoke, why did you have to provoke a woman like that?" Li Yun. He really couldn't answer that question. The blame belonged to the predecessor, and he wouldn't take it. So he was quite decisive. "I don't know her." Zhang Chu was so angry, he almost spat out his drink on the spot. That same phrase again. "Damn it, don't you want to vomit if I say too much?" Even the inspector of the punishment hall, who had just met Huang Yi for the first time, probably wouldn't believe such nonsense. Li Yun knew that others didn't believe him. But he just wouldn't admit it. Even if the heavenly king himself came, he would still say the same thing. I don't know him, I just don't know him." Just then, Zhang Ruhan arrived. As soon as he entered, he saw Zhang Chu sitting on the ground with a bruised and swollen face, still taunting Li Yun. His face darkened, and after asking what happened, he went up and gave him another beating without saying a word. "You brat, I told you you're stupid, and you still won't admit it. Get back here right now. If I see you coming here again and disturbing Li Yun's cultivation, I'll break your legs." Zhang Chu is fearless, except for his sister Zhang Ruhan. The bloodline suppression over the past decade or so was never just empty talk. HMPH, isn't it because you think Li Yun is talented and handsome that you've become fickle? I think you're just... Zhang Chu got up and muttered a couple of words. Upon seeing the murderous glare from Zhang Ruhan, he was instantly terrified and didn't dare utter another word, immediately turning tail and running away. That kid, he deserves a beating. Zhang Ruhan snorted, not embarrassed by Zhang Chu's nonsense. Instead, she turned around and looked at the environment of Yaoyan Zaya Aju, nodding as she looked. "That's good. Having my own place to live makes cultivation much more convenient. I came here to ask you for more advice on the sorrowful wind sword technique. I have been practicing it carefully these past 2 days, but my progress is subtle and I am stuck at the minor success level. I have not been able to master it. But I feel that mastering this sword technique will be key, helping me to fully understand its mysteries. So, I have no choice but to come to you again." Li Yun. "Senior Sister Zhang, is it appropriate for an inner sect senior sister like you, who cultivates the innate sword technique, to come to an outer sect disciple like me for guidance?" Zhang Ruhan didn't care at all. "What's inappropriate about it?" The accomplished come first, after all. You were the one who first comprehended this sorrowful wind sword technique and then passed it on to me. It's just that your cultivation level is not high enough yet. Otherwise, this sword technique would probably have been perfected by now. Just tell me, are you going to help me or not? Li Yun sighed helplessly. You really don't treat me like an outsider. Fine, I'll study it when I have time. I've only just begun to understand that sword technique. Don't bother taking time off. Aren't you going to the Tianfu 12 Palaces ruins with Elder Gu in a couple of days? Who knows when you'll be back? Hurry up now. Chapter 65, Upgrading the Sorrowful Wind Sword Technique, Zhao Chuanfeng's Wrath. Li Yun really couldn't refuse Zhang Ruohan's request for advice. If you can't refuse, then you have no choice but to agree. Moreover, this matter is not actually bad for him. He silently checked the system panel. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, middle grade 3. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 14. Martial arts, sorrowful wind sword technique beginner, mountain suppressing sword beginner, Hunyuan stance intent, silk reeling force intent, revering fate technique proficient, thunderclap fist intent, flying star step intent. Can be expanded. Martial arts knowledge points, 2 million. The sorrowful wind sword technique is quite expensive. It cost me 200,000 knowledge points just to get from beginner to beginner level. I don't know how many more it will cost next. Sai, let's give it a try first, and if it doesn't work, we can learn more. Let's do it. Li Yun sat down and immediately began to improve his sorrowful wind sword technique. In an instant, 200,000 knowledge points disappeared. Before long, the sorrowful wind sword technique was upgraded to the initial stage. Li Yun's eyes widened. No way, only 200,000. This is much lower than he expected. After thinking for a moment, Li Yun suddenly understood. Not every martial art is as abnormal as the reverse fate technique. The sorrowful wind sword technique does consume more cognitive points than the reverse fate technique in terms of progressing from beginner to intermediate level. But the subsequent improvement coefficient is obviously not as good as that of the reverse fate technique. More importantly, his aptitude has greatly improved compared to before, reaching the middle of the 3rd rank, which has reduced the consumption of a lot of cognition points. Overall, the time required to progress from beginner to intermediate level is actually the same as before. In this way, we can continue with the rest. Without hesitation, Li Yun chose to upgrade his skills again. From initial success to proficiency. This time, 400,000 points were deducted from the cognitive points. Li Yun's eyes lit up, so this is a double coefficient. Originally, upgrading the sorrowful wind sword technique from scratch should have cost 200,000, 400,000, 800,000, 1,600,000. His improved qualifications weakened him, reducing his effectiveness by about half. From the initial promotion stage, it became 200,000, 400,000, 800,000. If we calculate it this way, the next step is to upgrade the sorrowful wind sword technique from the proficient level to the minor mastery level, which requires 800,000 knowledge points. He glanced at the panel. There are 1.4 million points left. That's enough. Immediately, it was upgraded again. As expected, after spending another 800,000 cognition points, sorrowful wind sword technique officially reached the minor completion stage. The judgment of a double coefficient is correct. Reducing the consumption of cognitive points by half is not a problem. However, to upgrade sorrowful wind sword technique to the proficiency level, it would require 1.6 million cognition points. After that, to reach the great completion and perfection levels, it would require 3.2 million and 6.4 million respectively. Looking at such a large number, Li Yun couldn't help but feel a little toothache. However, you get what you pay for. Even after reducing the cost by half, it still requires tens of millions of cognition points to reach perfection, which is enough to prove the extraordinary nature of sorrowful wind sword technique. Thinking about this is some consolation. But right now, he only has 600,000 knowledge points left, which is clearly not enough. There's no other way but to top up. Li Yun picked up the ancient sword and began to examine it. Zhang Ruohan looked at his actions with a strange expression. "What are you doing?" Li Yun rolled her eyes. She said irritably, "Big sister, I'm working for you right now. Do you really think the sorrowful wind sword technique is so easy to comprehend? Doesn't it get tiring? Can't I even clear my mind for a moment while holding the sword?" That makes a lot of sense. Zhang Ruohan had no rebuttal. But are there people who can hold a sword while emptying their mind? Shouldn't a young man in the prime of his youth be embracing a woman to clear his mind? Is it really true that everyone's joys and sorrows are different? Is Li Yun not interested in women? Hiss. Zhang Ruohan seemed to have thought of something and suddenly gasped, not daring to speak. Qinglong Courtyard, Chuanfeng residence. Zhao Chuanfeng was studying a newly learned sword technique. After 2 months of study, he finally reached a minor level of mastery, but after reaching this level, he stopped progressing. No matter how he thought about it, it seemed to have no effect. This bothered him a bit, especially when he thought about how that outer disciple named Li Yun had actually become the top disciple of the Ren class and was praised as a super genius by the outer sect elders. A surge of anger inexplicably rose in his heart. What kind of person is this? He doesn't even have a background, yet he's qualified to be the chief. If it weren't for his status, and the fact that Li Yun had officially become the chief of the Ren class and was valued by the outer sect elders, he would have liked to teach Li Yun a lesson and let this guy know what it means to be arrogant. The more he thought about it, the less he could calm down. Of all times, at this very moment, Liu Ningkang arrived once again. This guy, with a beautiful and slender female outer disciple in his arms, walked into Chuanfeng residence in a very open and unreserved manner. "Hey, Zhao Chuanfeng, still practicing cultivation. I really admire you. Your fiancé is about to be snatched away by someone else, and you still have the mind to cultivate here. Your composure is truly unmatched." Upon hearing this, Zhao Chuanfeng's eyes turned red, and he angrily said, "Liu Ningkang, what are you doing here again? Talking nonsense here, be careful I don't turn against you." Liu Ningkang curled his lip. "Don't you know whether I'm talking nonsense or not? Why did Zhang Ruohan bring that guy named Li Yun to the inner sect before? She said she was bringing her younger brother Zhang Chu to broaden his horizons and also brought Zhang Chu's fellow disciples along. But do you believe that? Now Li Yun has become the chief of the Ren class, and his relationship with Zhang Kong is extremely good. It's obvious that the Zhang family has their eyes on Li Yun's talent and wants to recruit him. Zhang Ruohan even personally took action, tusk. It's said that she left the sect a while ago with Li Yun, and now I've even seen Zhang Ruohan go to Yaoyan Zaya Aju. Haha, you probably don't know what Yaoyan Zaya Aju is, do you? That was a private courtyard given to Li Yun, the chief disciple of the Ren character sect. A private courtyard, a lone man and woman, a place where impropriety would be precarious. Zhao Chuanfeng suddenly stood up. "Shut up. Damn Liu Ningkang, shut the hell up. If you spout any more nonsense, I'll kill you with my sword right now." Buzz. Enraged, Zhao Chuanfeng drew his longsword, the tip pointing directly at Liu Ningkang. A chilling, murderous intent emanated from him. Veins bulged prominently on his forehead and neck, like venomous snakes coiled around him, making him look exceptionally ferocious. "I was just trying to be nice and tell you, afraid that your fiancé might be kidnapped, and you treat me like this. You really don't appreciate my kindness." They're gone. He then left Chuanfeng residence with the beautiful female disciple in his arms. Zhao Chuanfeng stared at Liu Ningkang's back, his handsome face so gloomy it was almost dripping with water. Li Yun. You little bastard, I will never let you get away with this. Chapter 66, Zhang Ruohan's sword strike astonished everyone. Zhao Chuanfeng was not unaware that Liu Ningkang was treacherous and cunning, nor was he unaware that Liu Ningkang was deliberately sowing discord between him and Zhang Ruohan. But he just couldn't help it. Every word Liu Ningkang said felt like a knife stabbing into his heart. It made him completely lose control of his rage. Damn Li Yun, if you dare to have any thoughts about Zhang Ruohan, I swear I will tear you to pieces. Enraged, Zhao Chuanfeng grabbed his sword and turned to leave Chuanfeng residence. With his status as an inner disciple, he quickly found out the exact location of Yaoyan Zaya. He stormed to the entrance of Yaoyan Zaya in a fit of rage. He glanced at the plaque above his head and felt a deep sense of disgust. He suddenly drew his longsword and slashed at the plaque. Bang! The plaque, which had only been hung up for a day, was instantly shattered into pieces by the sword energy. Splinters of wood flew everywhere. Li Yun, you come out here and face your death. The commotion immediately alerted Zhang Ruohan and Li Yun, who were in the courtyard. Zhang Ruohan's face was as cold as frost. Her pearly teeth were almost broken from biting so hard. Li Yun, don't move, I'll handle this. He gave Li Yun a brief instruction and then hurriedly left. Li Yun thought for a moment, grinned, and actually stopped moving, holding the ancient sword to continue observing and accumulating his knowledge points. Zhang Ruohan flashed and appeared at the entrance of Yaoyan Zaya. Looking at the shattered plaque scattered all over the ground, an indescribable anger welled up in her heart. This wasn't just because Zhao Chuanfeng's actions embarrassed her. Zhao Chuanfeng, are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? This is the residence of the outer sect's chief disciple. What gives you the right to destroy the plaque without any reason? What you've done violates the rules of the sect. Zhao Chuanfeng was not afraid at all. On the contrary, he felt an even stronger surge of anger. Sect rules. You are my fiancé, Zhao Chuanfeng. You ran off to another man's place behind my back, and you still dare to talk to me about the rules of the household. Where's Li Yun? Tell that bastard to come out right now. I'm going to kill him right now. As he spoke, he then tried to bypass Zhang Ruohan and rush inside. Zhang Ruohan quickly moved to the side, using her body to block Zhao Chuanfeng. With me here today, you can forget about setting foot in Yaoyan Zaya. As she spoke, she also held her sword horizontally in front of her. Although she didn't draw her sword, her resolute and decisive tone made it clear that she would definitely draw her sword if Zhao Chuanfeng really charged in. Zhao Chuanfeng was stunned, his face turning red and then pale. He still seemed somewhat incredulous. You're actually going to fight me for someone who's not even a related person. Zhang Ruohan, this is wrong of you. You are Zhao Chuanfeng's fiancé. Everyone in the inner sect knows that. Yet you're going to fight Zhao Chuanfeng for an outsider. If word gets out, won't Zhao Chuanfeng be laughed at to death? Everyone says he can't even hold on to his own fiancé. Suddenly, a sneer rang out. Liu Ningkang actually appeared nearby with a beautiful female disciple in his arms, accompanied by several inner disciples from the White Tiger Academy, all of whom were his usual lackeys who liked to follow him around. It's you, Liu Ningkang. I know, it's you again, you disgusting guy, stirring things up, isn't it? How could you be so shameless? Liu Ningkang smiled dismissively, then put his arm around the female disciple and walked forward. Zhang Ruohan, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. You have to provide evidence to support your claims. Where did I instigate anything? What did I instigate? Ask Zhao Chuanfeng if I told him you came to Yaoyan Zaya to meet another man in secret. What does your lack of self-control have to do with me? If you continue to slander me like this, I'm going to file a complaint against you at the Inner Gate Punishment Hall. You. Zhang Ruhan was so angry that her shoulders trembled. However, they had no way to deal with Liu Ningkang. It's obvious that Liu Ningkang was the one instigating this. Otherwise, how could he have been so coincidental to arrive with his men right when she was having a conflict with Zhao Chuanfeng? But she had no evidence. Zhao Chuanfeng clearly had no intention of admitting it. The current situation is extremely unfavorable to her. She simply stared straight at Zhao Chuanfeng. Zhao Chuanfeng, you leave right now, get out of here. Don't let things get out of control because of the instigation of some disgusting guys. Upon hearing this, Liu Ningkang started to jeer again. Leave, haha, Zhao Chuanfeng, if you just leave like this, how will you save face? Let's see how you maintain your standing in the inner sect after this. Your fiancé is having a secret rendezvous with someone, and you're just standing at the door too afraid to go in. Tusk, that's not a good thing to say if word gets out. These words were spoken. Zhao Chuanfeng's eyes immediately turned red again. Zhang Ruhan, get out of my way right now. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. You dare. You'll see if I dare. If I, Zhao Chuanfeng, am indifferent to my fiancé having an affair, would I even be considered a human being? The words fell. Zhao Chuanfeng brandished his longsword and suddenly spurred his body forward, charging directly towards Yaoyanzaya Aju. Zhang Ruhan's expression immediately changed. Without a second thought, the sword was drawn, a flash of light appeared, and suddenly a fierce wind howled, accompanied by a sound more piercing than the wailing of a demon, which also made people feel endless sorrow. Sorrowful wind sword technique. In the rush, Zhang Ruhan actually managed to unleash the sorrowful wind sword technique at a minor level. In the blink of an eye, Zhao Chuanfeng's body stiffened, and a pained expression involuntarily appeared on his face. Then, he was sent flying by Zhang Ruhan. An innate sword technique that contains hidden mental attacks. When did you learn this sword technique? Why didn't I know anything about it? And you actually attacked me. Zhao Chuanfeng's face was filled with shock and anger. Originally, he was slightly better than Zhang Ruhan in terms of cultivation and martial arts, but Zhang Ruhan suddenly used this innate sword technique that contained a hidden mental attack. This immediately filled him with intense apprehension. Without a corresponding method to resist mental attacks, he probably wouldn't be able to break through Zhang Ruhan's sword aura. At this moment, Liu Ningkang was also somewhat shocked. The sword technique that Zhang Ruhan suddenly used was something he hadn't expected. He had never seen such a sword technique before. Based on this skill alone, he probably wouldn't be a match for Zhang Ruhan. This is getting a bit troublesome. But at this moment, suddenly a group of people rushed over from a distance. It was none other than Elder Hai Fen of the Outer Sex Punishment Hall, who led a group of Punishment Hall inspectors. You bastard. What are you doing? How dare you, inner disciples, openly cause trouble in the outer sect? Do you have no regard for the sect rules? Stop it, all of you. Upon seeing the sea tomb, Zhang Ruhan breathed a sigh of relief and rushed towards it without saying a word. Elder Hafen. Zhao Chuanfeng disregarded his status and challenged the residence of the chief disciple of the outer sect without cause. Liu Ningkang not only did not stop him, but also kept instigating and slandering the disciple's innocence. We beg Elder Hafen to uphold justice. Chapter 67, The Wrath of Gu Xiaoxian. Hai Fen glanced at Zhao Chuanfeng and Liu Ningkang with a gloomy expression, then turned to Lin Taishu and gave him instructions. Go. Go to the inner sect punishment hall immediately and see which elder is on duty. Ask him to come over right now. If he doesn't come, tell him that I will go directly to the main hall. The sea burial site was mentioned, without any attempt to hide anything from anyone. Zhao Chuanfeng and Liu Ningkang's faces almost turned green. You're making a scene at the main hall over something so trivial. What are they trying to do? Do we want to make a big fuss about this? The main hall of the punishment hall is not something that can be easily disturbed. If things really escalate there, not to mention inner disciples, even true disciples will probably suffer greatly. Zhao Chunfeng panicked. He hurried over. Elder Hai, isn't this unnecessary? Is it a bit of an overreaction to make such a fuss over something so trivial? Making a mountain out of a molehill. You actually think this is making a mountain out of a molehill? The sea tombs were enraged. He angrily rebuked Zhao Chunfeng on the spot. What do you think the heavenly martial sect has relied on to stand proudly in the Eastern Cloud Continent and firmly occupy its position as one of the 4 top sects in the Eastern Cloud Continent? Is he an inner disciple? Is it still you, Zhao Chunfeng? Let me tell you, the reason why the Tianwu sect has been able to stand tall in Dongyun Continent for 800 years and has always firmly maintained its position as one of the 4 top sects is because of its rules. It relies even more on the tens of thousands of new outer disciples who join the sect each year, constantly building a solid foundation for the heavenly martial sect. The heavenly martial sect can do without any inner disciples, or even without any true disciples, but it cannot do without outer disciples. Outer disciples are the guarantee of the heavenly martial sect's continued prosperity. And what are you doing now? You actually took a precious sword and went to the residence of an outer disciple who had just been designated as the chief disciple and openly killed the plaque that reads sword. Who gave you permission to act so recklessly? What will the 100,000 outer disciples of Tianwu sect think of what you've done? Are you trying to make those 100,000 outer disciples think that they deserve to be bullied and trampled on by inner disciples just because they are new disciples with low strength? Come, tell me. If you can offer a reasonable explanation today, not only will I, Hafen, not pursue your mistakes, but I will also strip myself of my title as an elder of the outer sect punishment hall. Zhao Chunfeng was immediately shaken. Looking at Hai Fen, whose face was full of anger yet righteous indignation, I felt a strong sense of guilt and shame. That damned Hafen, how dare he be so disrespectful, reprimanding him so harshly in front of everyone, even threatening to strip him of his title as an elder of the outer sect punishment hall. What the hell does this mean? Isn't this clearly saying that if he can't be held accountable today, he'll resign from his position as the elder of the outer sect punishment hall? What grudge, what resentment? Did they really need to be this ruthless? Not to mention Zhao Chunfeng, even Liu Ningkang standing to the side felt uneasy, sensing that something was very wrong. He was just trying to stir things up and watch the show. Who would have thought that things would escalate like this? Hai Fen, that old fellow, not only publicly deprived Zhang, the head of the outer sect's punishment hall, of his position, but also pinned the blame on Zhao Chunfeng for recklessly bullying the outer sect disciples. Moreover, he put forward a reasoning that almost implied that Zhao Chunfeng was undermining the foundation of the heavenly martial sect. Damn it, who the hell can bear such a huge burden? Let alone Zhao Chunfeng, a mere inner disciple, even if he were a true disciple, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. If Zhao Chunfeng can't handle it, then how much better can Liu Ningkang, who instigated it from the sidelines, be? No. We can't stay here any longer. We have to get out of here. Liu Ningkang glanced around, and taking advantage of the fact that everyone's attention was focused on Zhao Chunfeng, he secretly gave a wink to the person next to him, and then prepared to slip away quietly. Just then, 3 people suddenly walked out of Yaoyan Xiaoju. Gu Xiaoxian was in front, followed by Zhang Kong and Li Yun. Zhang Ruohan's expression froze for a moment, and she almost cried out in surprise. Something was wrong. When did Gu Xiaoxian and Zhang Kong enter Yaoyan Xiaoju? How come she didn't know? However, seeing that even Gu Xiaoxian, the grand elder of the outer sect, had personally appeared, Zhang Ruohan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. This is the grand elder of the outer sect, who is in charge of the entire outer sect elders' hall. the most powerful and influential figure in the entire outer sect. Looking across the entire Tianwu sect, those are all veteran figures. If he's willing to stand up for this matter, who cares about Zhao Chuanfeng or Liu Ningkang? They'll all be spending 3 months in the inner sect's punishment hall dungeon. Liu Ningkang, where are you going? Gu Xiaoxian's casual remark sounded like a thunderclap to Liu Ningkang. My soul almost exploded. This is terrible. Even Gu Xiaoxian has shown up. Liu Ningkang's heart was pounding, but he still obediently turned around, released the female disciple beside him, and said with a forced smile, No, I wasn't going anywhere. Elder Gu, what brings you here? Can I come? This is the outer sect, and I am the grand elder of the outer sect. Do I have to report to you before coming here? No, of course not, Elder Gu. Please don't misunderstand. That's not what I meant. Liu Enning was scared. I almost cried. He considered himself to have a powerful background in the Tianwu sect. His father was an elder of the White Tiger Academy, and his grandfather was a sect elder. He was always arrogant and did not take others seriously. But now he was facing a powerful figure who could directly challenge his grandfather. How could he possibly have the courage to confront him head-on? I have no choice but to back down. Then he hoped that Gu Xiaoxian would not make things difficult for him, for the sake of his grandfather. Pity. Gu Xiaoxian had no such intention at all. Suddenly, a fierce rage erupted. That's not what I meant. What do you mean then? When Zhao Chuanfeng chopped down the plaque of Yaoyan Xiaozhu with his sword, did you think I didn't know how you were instigating things from the sidelines? I'm telling you, don't try to deny it. I heard every word you said clearly. Would you like me to repeat it to you in front of everyone now? You're a complete bastard. How could the White Tiger Academy of the inner sect produce a disciple like you? Instead of diligently cultivating every day, you do shameless things and stir up trouble at will. You are a disgrace to the inner sect and a disgrace to the White Tiger Academy. He uttered a few furious words. Gu Xiaoxian almost nailed Liu Ningkang to the pillar of shame. This caused Liu Ningkang to tremble violently, his face turning pale and then red. Suddenly, he shuddered and his head snapped back as he fainted on the spot. Gu Xiaoxian didn't even glance at him. Her cold gaze shifted and landed on Zhao Chuanfeng. And you too. Zhao Chuanfeng, look at yourself now. Who do you think you are? You're a complete idiot beyond redemption. Chapter 68, This is the magnanimity that disciples of my heavenly martial sect should have. Elder Gu, you. Zhao Chuanfeng didn't have Liu Ningkang's thick skin. After being scolded, he fainted. All he felt was humiliation, as if his face had been ripped off in public. He never dreamed that Gu Xiaoxian would so brazenly insult him in public. You should know that Zhao Chuanfeng isn't without any background in the Tianwu sect. On the contrary, his background is even stronger than Liu Ningkang's. Of the more than 20 elders in the Tianwu sect, at least 2 have a special relationship with him. Moreover, each of them is of paramount importance. In terms of status and influence within the Tianwu sect, he was slightly superior to Gu Xiaoxian. Gu Xiaoxian actually insulted him like that. Did he not even give face to the elders behind him? What is Gu Xiaoxian up to? What? You're not convinced. I'm telling you, today you must apologize to Li Yun in public, compensate Li Yun for his losses, and promise not to bully outer disciples again. Otherwise, not only will Elder Hafen of the punishment hall go to the main hall, but I will also go to the main hall. I should ask the main hall whether the outer sect of Tianwu sect will continue to operate. Hiss. Everyone present gasped in shock. For Gu Xiaoxian to personally cause trouble at the main hall of the punishment hall was nothing short of a bolt from the blue, especially since he was doing it under the guise of an outer disciple being bullied. Goodness. Even someone with a poor brain would know that the head of the criminal investigation department would never let Zhao Chuanfeng go. It's not about giving Gu Xiaoxian face, but rather that even the powerful Xingtang headquarters has to consider the feelings of its 100,000 outer disciples. Of the 200,000 disciples of the Tianwu sect, 100,000 are in the outer sect. If the 100,000 outer disciples question the punishment hall, will the punishment hall still have any authority? What will it use to enforce the sect rules and to make judgments? It seems the heavenly punishment ruler in the hands of the punishment hall inspectors will be used as a fire poker. Faced with such a major matter concerning the dignity of the criminal court, not only would Zhao Chuanfeng be ineffective, but even the elders behind him would be powerless. Zhao Chuanfeng panicked. He was extremely panicked. He knew what the consequences would be if this matter reached the main hall. Not to mention being expelled from the Tianwu sect, at the very least, he would never be able to advance to the level of a true disciple again. Their future is doomed. But how can you ask him to apologize to Li Yun, especially in public? Once he apologizes, will he still have any face left? His fiancée was having an affair, and he not only couldn't confront the other person, but he also had to apologize to them in public. What kind of logic is this? How frustrating. Thinking of this, Zhao Chuanfeng's eyes reddened. Ah, don't be angry, Elder Gu. Why get so angry over such a small matter? Just then, the person Lin Taishu sent to the inner gate punishment hall to inform them had arrived. Not only had he arrived, but he had also learned the whole story on the way. However, he did not expect to hear Gu Xiaoxian's angry rebuke as soon as he arrived. I was so scared, I almost lost my mind. If the inner sect's punishment hall can't handle this kind of thing, and the outer sect's grand elder and sect elder Gu Xiaoxian have to go to the main hall to seek justice, then how can the inner sect's punishment hall possibly function properly? Let's just demolish the inner punishment hall. Elder Suzakuyuan, who happened to be on duty at the inner gate punishment hall today, felt incredibly unlucky. But he quickly ran to Gu Xiaoxian to comfort him. He repeatedly assured that he would give an explanation to the outer sect and to the injured outer sect disciples. Gu Xiaoxian's expression softened slightly, and he agreed to let Suzakuyuan handle the matter. Suzakuyuan was also extremely capable. Without saying a word, he pulled Zhao Chuanfeng aside. Zhao Chuanfeng, I understand what happened today. You were indeed wrong, there's no denying it. I'll only say one thing to you. If you don't want those two sect elders behind you to lose face, you have to take responsibility for what happened today. Apologize where you should and compensate where you should. What, Elder Zai, even you want me to apologize in public? Zhao Chuanfeng glared angrily at Suzakuyuan, as if he had been greatly humiliated. Suzakuyuan said expressionlessly, You don't have to apologize, but I will take you back to the inner sect punishment hall and, in the name of the punishment hall, strip you of your status as an inner sect disciple and expel you from the sect. After this is all over, I will personally go to apologize to the two elders. But I don't think the two elders will hold a grudge against me for this. You. Zhao Chuanfeng suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Let me tell you frankly again, in recent years, inner disciples have often bullied outer disciples, which has long annoyed Elder Gu. He has been waiting for an opportunity to completely correct this chaos. Your actions today are tantamount to handing yourself over to Elder Gu as a handle. Even if it's just to appease Elder Gu, you will be severely punished today. After apologizing and making compensation, you will have to spend at least 3 months in the inner sect's punishment hall dungeon, not a single day less. Choose whichever you prefer. Now, Zhao Chuanfeng was completely at a loss. He even understood that Suzakuyuan was only saying those things to him out of respect for the two elders who had supported him in the past. Otherwise, given his status as an elder of the inner sect's punishment hall, he could be arrested directly and punished severely and swiftly, leaving him no chance to protest. Left with no other choice, Zhao Chuanfeng had to admit defeat. I understand. I apologize. After saying that, he deflated like a punctured balloon, losing all his previous momentum. Then, led by Suzakuyuan, they arrived at the entrance of Yaoyan Xiaoju. He bowed deeply to Li Yun in front of everyone and apologized, saying, "I'm sorry, I acted impulsively. I hope junior brother Li Yun can forgive me." As he spoke, he clenched his fist tightly, but then, as if afraid of being discovered, he quickly loosened it, his whole hand trembling uncontrollably. In his view, this was the greatest humiliation he had ever suffered in his life. His killing intent towards Li Yun had reached its peak. Li Yun looked at his trembling hands and sneered inwardly, but remained unusually gentle on the surface. "It's a misunderstanding, all a misunderstanding. Actually, senior sister Zhang was mainly here discussing sword techniques with Elder Gu and Elder Zhang. I didn't even get a chance to speak. So, if you want to apologize, senior brother Zhao, you should apologize to senior sister Zhang instead. As for compensation, it's just a plaque not worth much. It's fine if it's broken. I'll just consider it as me changing the name of my residence. From now on, I won't hang a plaque anymore. I'll just call it Wuming Xiaoju, Nameless Cottage." As he spoke, a warm smile also appeared on Li Yun's face. Gu Xiaoxian watched with admiration. "Excellent, kind and generous, this is the kind of magnanimity that disciples of my Tianwu sect should have. Zhao Chuan Feng, you should learn from this. If a person doesn't even have this much magnanimity, and gets irritable and angry all day long over trivial matters, how can they talk about understanding the world, and how can they climb the path of martial arts?" Yes. Zhao Chuanfeng lowered his head completely, but only he himself knew how strong the murderous intent in his heart was. Chapter 69, this disciple is 18 this year. If he fails the grand competition, he should leave the sect. Soon, Zhao Chuanfeng and Liu Ningkang were both taken away by the inner sect punishment hall. This incident has caused quite a stir. In order to quickly quell the storm and avoid adverse effects, the inner sect punishment hall quickly sentenced Zhao Chuanfeng and Liu Ningkang and announced it to the entire clan. Zhao Chuanfeng was sentenced to 3 months of imprisonment in the inner sect's dungeon for bullying outer disciples due to instigation by others. Liu Ningkang was sentenced to 6 months in prison for instigating and causing trouble. These 2 guys tried to cause trouble, but ended up in the dungeon of the punishment hall. They were even publicly rebuked by Elder Gu Xiaoxian in the outer sect. One was called a disgrace to the White Tiger Academy of the inner sect, and the other was called a stupid pig. When this news spread within the inner circle, it immediately became a laughing stock. This has sparked much discussion. As a result, Li Yun, the chief disciple of the outer sect with the character Ren in his name, was finally noticed by the inner sect disciples. They just have different attitudes. Some people who already disliked Liu Ningkang and Zhao Chuanfeng and had a bad relationship with them found Li Yun very interesting and thought he had helped them vent their anger. Some people reacted indifferently, thinking that Li Yun was lucky because Gu Xiaoxian wanted to rectify the chaos of inner disciples bullying outer disciples, and that's how he got the limelight. But many more people felt uncomfortable. I think Li Yun is being extremely rebellious. Throughout history, the disciples of the Tianwu sect have been divided into 4 levels: outer disciples, inner disciples, true disciples, and sect followers. These 4 levels have always been a pyramid with outer disciples at the base. As an outer disciple, Li Yun, relying on his minor achievements and the favor of the outer elders, became disrespectful and defiant, causing the inner disciples to be humiliated in public and lose face. As a result, he was imprisoned in the dungeon of the punishment hall. If this continues, who will take the inner disciples seriously? Who will still respect the inner disciples? As a result, some people are thinking that it might be a good opportunity to let Li Yun experience the consequences of offending an inner disciple. However, Li Yun was naturally unaware of these things. After the turmoil subsided, Li Yun spent 2 more days in his courtyard, which he renamed Wuming Xiaoju, Nameless Abode. By observing the ancient sword, he gained over 10 million knowledge points, completely elevating the sorrowful wind sword technique to its perfect state. After giving Cang Yunju some pointers, Gu Zhaoxian led her out of the sect and off to the ruins of the 12 palaces of heaven. At the center of Cang Yunju lies Tianfu Mountain. After traveling for 2 days with Gu Zhaoxian's personal guidance, Li Yun finally arrived. This was Li Yun's first time traveling far from home since his transmigration. The last time I left the Tianwu sect was when Cang Yunju took me to that valley that contained the sorrowful wind sword technique. However, that place was not actually far away. It was only about 300 kilometers from the heart of the Tianwu sect. Actually, it's still within the Tiandong mountain range, where the Tianwu sect is located. This time, however, they went directly to Tianfu Mountain, which is at least 800 kilometers away from Tianwu sect. Along the way, Li Yun's eyes were truly opened. I truly witnessed the magnificent landscape of Cang Yunju, as well as various scenic spots and even bustling cities. It was even more shocking than he had imagined. It can only be said that in a world dominated by martial arts, life may not be as convenient or colorful as in the previous life, but it has a magnificent grandeur that the bustling city of the previous life could not match. It's hard to say which world is better. But now that he's already in this world, Li Yun has no reason to let his life fail, right? He was determined to obtain the inheritance of the 12 palaces of heaven this time. Obtain the inheritance, and then cultivate internal strength. With the system he possesses, he will surely soon be able to rise from the abyss like a dragon, emerging from the depths and soar to the heavens. Only the moment I truly set foot on Tianfu Mountain, he was still completely bewildered. The so-called Tianfu 12 Palaces ruins are actually just ruins. In the vast mountains, there were only ruins and desolation everywhere. On the surface, it was impossible to know where the heritage could be found. Ironically, these ruins have been guarded by the 4 top sects of Dongyun continent for a long time, firmly surrounding the area. Is it really necessary? Why not just send someone to guard the only entrance, the radiant platform? Li Yun found it somewhat difficult to understand. Oh, Elder Gu, what brings you here in person? It's been so long since I've seen you. And who is this? Suddenly, a man in a deep blue robe appeared nearby with a group of people and greeted them with a big smile. As the person approached, their gaze began to sweep over Li Yun, seemingly intentionally or unintentionally. It's you again. Does your Tianai sect have no one else? Why do you always have to be Yuan Bukong stationed here? You haven't made a mistake again, have you? Seemingly quite familiar with each other, Gu Zhaoxian also started joking, his face displaying a relaxed smile that was distinctly different from the rather serious one he wore at Tianwu sect. Then, Gu Zhaoxian introduced the 2 parties. Li Yunkai realized that this man named Yuan Bukong was an outer sect elder of the Tianai sect. The 4 top sects of Dongyun continent are Tianwu sect, Tianai sect, Tianwu sect, and Tianian sect. Among them, Tianwu sect has a better relationship with Tianai sect, the worst relationship with Tianwu sect, and a neutral relationship with Tianian sect. However, among the 4 top sects, the Heavenly Wrath sect is the strongest. This was something that Li Yun had been taught before he set off. Li Yun reacted quickly and took the initiative to greet Yuan Bukong, which was considered a formality. As for Li Yun, whether Gu Zhaoxian did it on purpose or accidentally let something slip, he only mentioned that he was an outer disciple, but did not mention the newly promoted chief disciple of the Ren class. Even so, when Yuan Bukong learned that Gu Zhaoxian had brought Li Yun here to try his luck and have Li Yun enter the ruins to search for the inheritance of the 12 palaces of heaven, Yuan Bukong couldn't help but shrink his pupils. He said with a smile, "Goodness, this young man is not old at all, is he 18? Yet he can shoulder such a heavy responsibility. Truly, heroes emerge from among the young." Gu Zhaoxian simply smiled, glanced at Li Yun, and said nothing. Li Yun had no choice but to cup his hands in greeting and come out to answer himself. Elder Yuan, I am 18 years old this year and have been a disciple for 3 years. The outer sect competition is coming soon. If I can't squeeze into the top 1,000, I will have to leave the sect. But with so many fellow disciples, all of whom are hidden talents, I really have no confidence. That's why I shamelessly begged Elder Gu to bring me here to try my luck, hoping to make some contributions so that I can stay in the sect for another 2 years. It's really a bit too shameless of me. I dare not call myself a hero. Sigh. While speaking, he pretended to be very embarrassed. Yuan Bukong was stunned, unsure whether to believe it or not. But after thinking about it, I still feel that this kid seems pretty honest, and he's doing this in front of Gu Zioxian, so he probably won't just spout nonsense. Chapter 70 Radiant Platform, Enter. Seeing that Yuan Bukong seemed a little skeptical, Gu Zioxian found it amusing. He quickly coughed twice to change the subject. I haven't been here for a long time, so I haven't paid attention to the situation at the ruins. How is it? Have any disciples from those 2 sects come to search for their inheritance? Yes, of course there are, and there are plenty. Mentioning the other 2 sects made Yuan Bukong's teeth ache. There are so many people coming. Especially 3 days ago, 15 disciples from the Tianian sect and the Tianu sect came directly, 7 from the Tianian sect and 8 from the Tianu sect. After entering the Yaoguang platform, they never came out again. They all have their noses in the air and are incredibly arrogant at such a young age, unlike brother Li Yun, who is so gentle and polite. While Yuan Bukong was criticizing the disciples of the Tianu and Tianian sects and listing their faults, he didn't forget to praise Li Yun, which made Li Yun a little embarrassed. He quickly smiled and showed a humble yet polite smile. And at this time, another group of people hurriedly approached from not far away. They called out to Elder Gu from afar. Judging from their attire, Li Yun immediately realized that these were the people sent by the Tianwu sect to guard the ruins of the 12 palaces of Tianfu. He already knew when he arrived that the chubby middle-aged man in the lead was named Wei Zong, and he was also an outer sect elder. Elder Gu, I'm so sorry, I just led some men on patrol. Recently, I don't know what's going on, but some idle martial artists have been sneaking up to Tianfu Mountain, trying to quietly enter Yaoguang platform. Gu Zioxian frowned. Is that so? Yuan Bukong quickly replied. Yes, this matter is indeed a bit strange. I have also caught quite a few, but according to them, they heard rumors that the inheritance of the 12 palaces of heaven will appear soon. That's why many idle martial artists want to come and try their luck. Gu Zioxian was so angry that he laughed. You think you can rely on luck for this? How come I didn't know that? Besides, what right do they have to enter the Radiant platform? That Radiant platform was rebuilt at great cost by our 4 major sects. Back then, when we sought cooperation with those smaller sects to repair the Radiant platform, they all felt that we were taking advantage of them and refused with various excuses. They even mocked us 4 major sects for not being able to repair the Radiant platform. Now, HMPH. In my opinion, those so-called rumors are probably deliberately spread by those minor sects to create momentum and coerce us into giving up some of our spots in the Radiant platform. Don't even think about it. The Radiant platform can only admit 100 people each year. If we 4 sects divide it equally, we can only get 25. What do we have to offer them? Yuan Bukong nodded in deep agreement. That's right. There's absolutely no room for negotiation on this. The 4 major sects contributed resources and effort to finally repair the Radiant platform, but they're going to give up their limited spots. They're not stupid. All right, enough with the nonsense. I'll wait here. Wei Zong, you take Li Yun to Yaoguang platform and emphasize the precautions to him again. Then you just wait there. Yes. Wei Zong cupped his hands in greeting and then left with Li Yun. Once they were far away from Yuan Bukong, Wei Zong smiled and said, Li Yun, it seems Elder Gu has a lot of confidence in you this time, since he personally accompanied you to Tianfu Mountain. I don't know. Elder Gu just told me to come and try my luck. Try your luck. Wei Zong's lips twitched involuntarily. Gu Xiaoxian had just said that this matter couldn't be resolved by luck, and now this kid was pulling the same trick again. Looks like he's a slippery character. That makes sense, though. If he weren't so cunning, he probably wouldn't have brought him here. After thinking it over, Wei Zong decided not to test the waters anymore. He said frankly, Elder Gu should have told you when you came that, after the destruction of the 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion, they were shrouded in a mysterious power, and those whose cultivation has reached the refining power realm or above cannot enter at all. The only entrance is the radiant platform. Yes, Elder Gu told me about it. He also said that it was both real and illusory, and that I must be on high alert to guard against any possible crisis. Very good, it seems you have remembered Elder Gu's words. However, you must also remember one thing. After you go in, you must be wary of the people from the other 3 sects, including the Tianai sect. Including the Tianai sect. Li Yun was a little surprised. Wei Zong said solemnly, That's right. Although among the 4 major sects, our Tianwu sect and Tianai sect have the best relationship, no matter how good it is, we are still 2 families. Faced with the huge temptation of the core inheritance of the 12 palaces of talent, even brothers sometimes can't help. Do you understand? Furthermore, and most importantly, if you are truly fortunate enough to obtain the core inheritance, do not mention it to anyone. Just pretend you received nothing. Li Yun almost exclaimed, Good heavens, 3 times in a row. These people are all incredibly cunning. No wonder Gu Xiaoxian was chatting and laughing with Yuan Bukong just now, but deliberately didn't mention that he was the chief of the Ren class. It wasn't that he forgot, it was clearly intentional. Thinking of this, he suddenly remembered something else. Elder Yuan just said that the Heavenly Wrath sect and the Heavenly Flame sect have a total of 15 disciples. Is that accurate? That's accurate, he didn't lie about that. But I bet he didn't mention how many of their Tianai sect members got in, did he? That's exactly what I wanted to ask. Let me tell you, their Tianai sect actually had the most disciples, a total of 9. Holy crap. Doesn't that mean that our Heavenly Martial sect has the fewest? I'm the only one, the only son. Wei Zong sighed. There's nothing we can do. It's our Tianwu sect's fault for wasting all the spots before. We sent in 2 batches of disciples at the beginning of the year, and they all came out empty-handed. That's why Elder Gu held back the last spot this year and gave it to you at the very end. Li Yun. As they were talking, we've arrived at Yaeguang Terrace. On the surface, this thing looks like just a stone platform, and there's nothing special about it at all. But Li Yun still followed Wei Zong's instructions and walked towards the stone platform. Just as Li Yun stood on the stone platform, preparing to unleash the true meaning of basic stance training, Wei Zong slapped his forehead and said something. Remember, be careful once you're inside. When necessary, don't hesitate. As long as we are not seen or caught red-handed, our Heavenly Martial sect is not afraid of trouble. Li Yun immediately understood. The next second, a trace of true intent slowly emanated from his body, and the stone platform beneath his feet suddenly trembled. Li Yun felt a blur before his eyes, and his figure suddenly disappeared from the stone platform. When they reappeared, the scene before them was completely different. There were no ruins or desolation. Instead, it was a spacious training ground, completely new. What surprised him even more was that hundreds of young disciples were diligently practicing stance training in this training ground. Chapter 71, Something's Not Right. Good heavens. Is there really such a magical sight? Li Yun murmured softly, his eyes scanning the training ground. Before he arrived, Gu Xiaoxian had already given him a lot of information about the interior of the 12 palaces of Tianfu ruins. Of course, this was all brought to him by Tianwu sect disciples who had entered the ruins before. It is said that, after the destruction of the 12 palaces of heaven, they were shrouded in a mysterious force. Under the influence of this mysterious power, the 12 palaces of heaven seem to have been transformed into a secret realm. Within this secret realm, the mysterious power re-evolved the 12 palaces of heaven in their entirety. Whether it's architecture or disciples, they all reappear in the secret realm, making it difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. Those who enter through the radiant platform can move around and observe freely. As long as they don't actively engage with the people in the 12 palaces of heaven, they won't pay attention to them either, as if they can't see them at all. With Li Yun's limited knowledge, it would be difficult for him to understand this kind of thing. When Gu Xiaoxian explained it to him, he wondered if it was some kind of illusion, a misperception caused by the distorted mental perception of those who entered the ruins. But now it seems unlikely to be an illusion. In the training ground, hundreds of disciples were immersed in practicing basic stance training, sweating profusely. Upon close inspection, even the fine hairs on their faces could be clearly seen. Even the sound of a heartbeat. These are clearly real people with flesh and blood. How could they be fake illusions? However, Li Yun had no intention of paying them any attention. He felt that the situation was somewhat strange, and it was best to ignore it to avoid any unpredictable consequences. So he left the training ground directly. Beyond the training ground lies a mountain path, bustling with people, including disciples of the 12 palaces of the Heavenly Palace, many of whom are chatting and laughing. Some even started gesturing while they were talking. This makes one wonder if the 12 palaces of Tianfu were never destroyed, but rather hidden away, and that the so-called ruins are actually a hoax. Li Yun resisted the urge to greet people and inquire about the core inheritance of the 12 palaces of Tianfu. The ruins of the 12 palaces of Tianfu have been known for more than a year or two, and the 4 major sects have been sending people in for more than a year or two. If it were useful to inquire with the people inside, would it be his turn to inquire? So he simply pretended not to see the people coming and going. Keep walking forward. About half an hour later, Li Yun saw a wide platform, and his eyes suddenly lit up. On that platform, more than a dozen disciples surrounded each other, cheering from time to time. Among the sea of Tianfu 12 palaces costumes, he spotted a fiery red figure, a young man in a long crimson robe with flame marks on his back, quietly squeezing into the crowd. A disciple of Tianyun's sect. Finally, we've seen a real, living person, but what does he want? Li Yun thought for a moment and then walked over. However, he did not go directly to the platform, but instead slipped to the other side and climbed up a tree that was more than 20 meters high. Hiding yourself in a tree and looking down through the gaps in the branches, you can get a panoramic view of the scene on the platform. Upon closer inspection, I realized what had happened. It turned out that 2 disciples of the 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion were fighting fiercely, and a woman was acting as a referee on the side, holding a deep blue book in her hand. It was obvious that the Yan sect disciples were after that woman that day. Judging from his agile figure, he had obviously practiced martial arts such as footwork. He was very nimble and quickly slipped into the crowd. Then, ignoring everyone else, he suddenly grabbed the book from the woman's hand. In an instant, the azure book fell into the hands of the Tianyun sect disciple, but the people present did not react at all. Li Yun was extremely surprised. Could that be the inheritance? Is it really that easy to get your hands on? No way, really. And strangely enough, Gu Xiaoxian mentioned the situation inside the ruins to him, but this part wasn't mentioned. Could it be that the Tianwu sect disciples who entered this place before didn't encounter it? Or perhaps they encountered it but concealed it. Li Yun didn't quite understand it. As I was pondering this, Suddenly my mouth gaped open. He was shocked. The Tianian sect disciple who had obtained the Azure book was filled with excitement. He stared at the woman from head to toe for a few moments before suddenly reaching out to grab the 2 large mounds on her chest. Holy crap. Holy crap. This actually works. To be honest, Li Yun's brain almost shut down. He simply couldn't understand what kind of thought process that Tianian sect disciple had. Why not just get the goods and run away? Why is there this extra step? Even thirst shouldn't be this extreme, right? However, this one unnecessary movement caused an accident. The moment the Tianian sect disciple groped her chest, the woman let out a roar, and a dense black aura erupted from her body, transforming into a ghostly claw in midair. Die. With a single claw strike, it pierced through the air and landed directly on the disciple of the heavenly flame sect. Tear it apart. With effortless ease, as if tearing open a tattered sack, the body of the Tianian sect disciple was ripped in 2. Blood flew everywhere on the spot. When the blood rained down on the ground, it mysteriously disappeared. The people on the platform were all emitting a strange red light, and their faces showed a satisfied expression. The black aura surrounding the woman also disappeared. He resumed his role as referee, still holding that Azure book in his hand. Everything seems to be exactly the same as before. The only difference is that one disciple of the Tianian sect was lost. Thud. A bead of cold sweat unknowingly slid down Li Yun's forehead. Damn it, these disciples of the 12 palaces of Tianfu, who have been recreated and evolved by mysterious forces. There's really something wrong with them. But why? That Tianian sect disciple doesn't seem like a lecherous devil, so why did he make that unnecessary move under those circumstances? Li Yun felt increasingly uneasy. He quickly slid down from the tree, thinking it best to find the inheritance as soon as possible and leave this place. But I don't know why. Just as he was about to leave, his eyes involuntarily drifted towards the deep blue book, and a strange impulse arose within him, a desire to snatch it away. The inexplicable impulse was so strong that he almost subconsciously took a step towards the platform. Li Yun knew something was wrong. I gritted my teeth and tried my best to control the impulse, but it didn't seem to have much effect. But at that moment, another boy dressed in khaki clothes suddenly darted into the platform from the side and headed straight for the woman. Li Yun was taken aback. A disciple of the Heavenly Wrath sect. Immediately, he seized the opportunity to turn around and slip back to the tree where he had just hidden. Chapter 72, The Heavenly Mansion Inner Force Condensation Method. Can it also be fused? Rob. The disciple of the Heavenly Wrath sect rushed in front of the woman and snatched the Azure book from her, without making the same mistake as the previous disciple of the Heavenly Flame sect. He grabbed the deep blue book, turned around and ran away. He perfectly portrayed the character of a sixth-born man. Li Yun once thought that the Heavenly Wrath sect disciple was about to succeed, and he was considering whether to seize the opportunity to stalk the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Sudden, the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath sect stopped in their tracks. He was almost off the platform when his body suddenly stopped, then turned around uncontrollably and charged towards the woman again. No. Help me. The disciples of the Heavenly Wrath sect seemed to have realized the danger. Their faces were filled with deep fear. With a roar, they forcefully threw the Azure book in their hands over the edge of the platform. Snap. The book fell onto the mountain path outside the platform. At the same time, the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath sect rushed to the woman and involuntarily reached out their hands to attack the towering mountain. Exactly the same, exactly the same. After groping her breasts, the woman roared in anger, and thick black energy surged from her body again, transforming into a ghostly claw that tore the Heavenly Wrath sect disciple to shreds on the spot. This dramatic change happened in almost 2 seconds. It happened so fast that even Li Yun couldn't react in time. The matter was already over. Damn it. That woman is strange, really strange. The fact that a Tianian sect disciple suddenly groped someone's chest could perhaps be explained by the Tianian sect disciple's abnormal thought process. If another disciple of the Heavenly Wrath sect has experienced the same thing, then it can't possibly still be a problem with their thought process. Moreover, Li Yun could see it clearly. That day, the new sect disciple had no intention of groping her breasts at first. After obtaining the azure blue book, he wanted to leave immediately, but just as he was about to step off the platform, he suddenly stopped, turned around, and completed the groping action. The whole thing seems more like a strange loss of self-control. What does that mean? Li Yun strongly suspected that anyone who stepped onto that platform would be attacked by this inexplicable force, unable to control themselves from groping the woman's breasts, and then be killed. Thinking of this, without hesitation, Li Yun leaped to the ground. Before the black aura on the woman's body had completely dissipated, he quickly picked up the azure book and darted up the mountain path. He ran while quickly flipping through the books. He had to determine the contents of the azure book as soon as possible and whether there were any problems with it. If there were, he would have to discard it immediately. 2 or 3 methods for condensing internal energy. A brief analysis of the true meaning of basic stance training. The azure book had only 10 thin pages, which Li Yun quickly flipped through. With his aptitude at the 3rd rank, he quickly memorized most of the contents. I was just about to think about it more carefully. Suddenly, the azure book emitted a layer of light, and the next second, the book disappeared from Li Yun's hand. Vanished into thin air. There wasn't a single trace to be seen. It was incredibly eerie. Fuck you. Li Yun immediately stopped in his tracks, gritted his teeth, and turned back, walking all the way to the vicinity of the platform to look over. Really? The platform has returned to its previous state. 2 disciples were fighting, while a woman held a deep blue book as a referee. The scene was noisy and lively, as if they were waiting for the next person to snatch the book. Hiss. Li Yun gasped and turned to leave without saying a word. Damn, it's a trap. It's a huge pitfall. Whoever wants to go, he's not going. He quickly walked uphill, and after a while he suddenly froze. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, middle grade 3. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired body tempering level 14. Martial arts, Tianfu inner force condensation method loading. 64%, sorrowful wind sword technique, perfected, Zhenyu mountain sword beginner, Hunyuan stance intent, entangling silk force intent, revering fate technique minor success, thunderclap fist intent, flying star step intent, expandable. Martial arts knowledge points, 3.48 million. Good heavens. Li Yun was pleasantly surprised. He glanced at the azure book and found a new martial art on the panel, the Heavenly Mansion inner force condensation method. Wasn't this the purpose of his trip? However, this should not be the complete inheritance. The complete core inheritance of the 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion is the Heavenly Mansion divine skill. The azure book only brought him a part of the method for condensing internal energy. It should only be a small part of Tianfu divine skill. Even if it was only a small part, Li Yun was happy. It was a timely help for him. At the same time, he also discovered that his cognitive points had actually increased, and by a significant amount. When he left Tianwu sect, he had 2.98 million cognition points left after upgrading Sorrowful Wind Sword technique to perfection, but now he has reached 3.48 million. Throughout the journey, although he carried the ancient sword with him, he never had the opportunity to examine it. The 500,000 that appeared out of nowhere could only be obtained after entering the Tianfu 12 Palaces ruins. You can acquire martial arts skills and also gain knowledge points. It seems that, although the ruins of the 12 palaces of heaven are a bit eerie, they can also be considered a blessed place. I took another look at the panel. Upon discovering that the Tianfu inner strength condensation method had already reached 67% and was still slowly increasing, he immediately decided to stop running around and find a place to stay quietly until the martial art was fully loaded before making any further decisions. Li Yun quickly flew upwards and found a secluded cliff where he sat down. Quietly wait for the martial arts to load. About 15 minutes. Tianfu internal force condensation method has been fully loaded. It turned out to be the Heavenly Mansion internal force condensation method, incomplete, not yet mastered. Holy crap. This is just a fragment. But even incomplete chapters can be cultivated. Li Yun's expression was strange. After hesitating for a brief moment, he decided to upgrade first. We started adding points immediately. 20,000 knowledge points for beginners. 40,000 knowledge points initially established. 80,000 knowledge points proficient. 160,000 cognitive points minor achievement. 320,000 knowledge points mastered. 640,000 knowledge points, a great achievement. And then that was it. The system message states that because it is only a fragment, it cannot be perfected. Reaching the highest level is already the limit. However, to his surprise, just as the Tianfu inner force condensation method reached its peak, a new notification popped up on the system panel. A martial art that can be integrated with the main cultivation technique, Hunyuan Zhuang, has been discovered. Should it be integrated? Li Yun was dumbfounded on the spot. When did Hunyuan Zhuang become his main cultivation method? Why didn't he know anything about it? And they can even be fused together. The object of fusion is the fragment of the Tianfu inner force condensation method. Li Yun didn't hesitate much. I readily agreed. Merge. Chapter 73, Advancement to the Refining Force Realm, the Arrogant Heavenly Wrath Sect Disciple. Subtract 1 million cognitive points. The Hunyuan Zhuang and Tianfu Ni Li Enning Lion Fa have finally merged into a brand new martial art called Hunyuan Gong. The initial stage of the newly formed Hunyuan Gong is the entry level. However, this is already a martial art that contains a method for condensing internal energy, enough to guarantee that anyone can cultivate to the level of refining internal energy according to the technique. As for what level of internal energy he can cultivate, that remains to be seen. Li Yun decided to improve his cultivation level first. The first step, from beginner to proficient, cost 100,000 knowledge points. The second step, from initial understanding to proficiency, required 150,000 cognitive points. This means that any future increases should be based on a multiplier of 1.5. In other words, to cultivate Hunyuan Gong to perfection, you would need approximately 1.84 million more cognition points, 225,000 plus 337,500, plus 506,250, plus 759,375,000 rounded up, to achieve perfection. But right now, he only has 970,000 knowledge points left. It's no longer direct and satisfactory. However, this did not stump Li Yun. He carried an ancient sword with him, which was essentially a storage battery of cognitive points. If the battery is dead, then just charge it. It's just a matter of taking a little time, no big deal. Immediately, Li Yun took out the ancient sword to examine it. It started to improve at a rate of 500 cognitive points per second, and after an hour, the panel had gained 1.8 million cognitive points. Simply pushing the Hunyuan Gong to its perfect state is enough. Operate. Half an hour later, Hunyuan Gong officially reached its perfect state. However, there are still 930,000 cognitive points left on the panel. It's perfect. The completion of the Hunyuan Gong also allowed Li Yun to master the technique completely and flawlessly. However, mastering something does not equate to actual training results. Li Yun obediently followed the steps and began his cultivation. Since we're already inside the ruins, formally cultivating internal energy won't be an obstacle to entering. On the contrary, given the current situation, cultivating internal energy first and increasing our strength would be more beneficial. The primordial true meaning is automatically triggered as soon as cultivation begins. Without taking any pills, all kinds of spiritual energy were naturally drawn to the surroundings, and all of it was drawn into the body, then absorbed and refined through the Hun Yuan Gong. He cultivated his internal energy almost without any obstacles and did so smoothly. The skill has been perfected, that's how powerful it is. In this way, Li Yun's cultivation officially entered the first level of the refining power realm. Having reached this level, Li Yun consciously slowed down his cultivation, carefully savoring the extra internal energy within his body. His first impression of so-called internal energy was that it was illusory. I can clearly feel a force generating and surging within my body, but it is invisible and intangible, beyond my own perception and control, and I can even doubt its existence. However, this internal force is indeed quite powerful. A slight jolt. With the combination of internal and external forces, Li Yun felt that he could easily unleash power far exceeding his previous limits in the body-tempering realm. When it comes to using the martial arts techniques they currently possess, it's as easy as using their own limbs. The power is even stronger with 3 more points. This is only the first level of the power refinement realm, which is just the beginning. If he were to truly reach the 9th level of power refinement, Li Yun could not even imagine how powerful he would become. However, on the other hand, because the Tianfu inner force condensation method, fused with the Hun Yuan Zhuang, was not perfect, the fused Hun Yuan Gong also failed to reach the level he wanted. Although he successfully cultivated his internal strength, its quality only reached the 8th rank. This is only the lower 3rd grade of internal energy. It's far inferior to the most powerful technique in the Tianwu Sect's armory. 6 methods return to origin. No matter what Li Yun said, it was impossible to satisfy him. Therefore, Li Yun decisively stopped cultivating. He knew that since the fragments of the Tianfu inner force condensation method could appear on that platform, there must be other places where they could be found. As long as he found them all and combined them, it would not be difficult to restore the most powerful technique that could cultivate inner force to the upper 3 grades. The next moment, Li Yun stepped out from the cliff edge and began searching more actively for the next method within the ruins. Soon, after wandering around for more than half an hour, Li Yun saw the second place where the cultivation technique appeared. This is on a secluded stone platform halfway up the mountain. A young man was engrossed in studying a yellowed book. There was no one else around. The other party showed no reaction to Li Yun's arrival, as if they hadn't seen him at all. However, having learned from his previous experience, Li Yun dared not be careless. He did not believe that he could easily leave by taking advantage of the opportunity to seize the cultivation technique. This ruin is shrouded in a mysterious and unknown power. It seems that some kind of rule has been established. It is possible to seize the cultivation technique, but one must be able to withstand the test. As for what kind of test one must withstand, that remains unknown. One thing is certain. If you seize the cultivation technique but cannot withstand the test, your fate will be miserable. It could very well be fatal. Li Yun dared not act rashly, but stood about 10 meters behind the young man, silently observing the young man and the surrounding environment. But nothing came of it. Li Yun couldn't help but complain. What the hell is this Tianfu 12 Palaces thing? Is the test really left by the Tianfu 12 Palaces? If it is, why can't we reveal the secrets? Why all this secrecy? It could be deadly if you're not careful. Isn't this just setting people up for trouble? About 15 minutes later, Li Yun suddenly heard light footsteps behind him, and he quickly turned around. But then he saw a young man in a khaki-colored robe walking towards him. When their faces met, the young man's face showed disdain and a hint of hostility. A disciple of the Heavenly Martial Sect. Your Heavenly Martial Sect finally decided to use its last spot. But it's no use, I'm telling you. The ruins have undergone a strange change. Your people came in happily, but left dejected. As for you, you probably won't even be able to save your own life. Your Heavenly Martial Sect is not qualified to inherit the Heavenly Mansion's legacy. Get out of the way. Li Yun's lips twitched. Are all the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath Sect this arrogant? They haven't offended anyone, yet they show disdain upon meeting each other. He's just a body-tempering realm cultivator. Isn't he afraid of getting beaten to death? But then he thought, since he was worried about not having anyone to scout ahead for him, why not let this guy check out the situation? Immediately, Li Yun stopped talking and silently turned away. The disciples of the Heavenly Wrath Sect became even more smug when they saw that Li Yun had retreated without a word after being berated by them. As he walked past Li Yun, he deliberately gave Li Yun a hard shove. Get out of the way, you coward. Today, I'll show you useless disciples of the Heavenly Martial Sect what to do. Chapter 74. Bang. Egg explodes. Awesome, you do it. Li Yunkai was unwilling to argue with such a fool. They decisively retreated far away. The disciples of the Heavenly Wrath Sect became even more smug upon seeing this, and felt that Li Yun was weak and easy to bully. They thought that once they got the cultivation technique, they would humiliate the disciples of the Heavenly Martial Sect properly, and it would be a great topic of conversation when they returned. Then they walked up behind the mysterious young man. Stand still. The first stance of basic stance training has been set up. Watch closely, disciples of the Heavenly Martial Sect. If you want to obtain the cultivation technique, you mainly need to master the stance training. Not only do you need to cultivate the stance training, but you also need to know how to integrate it. The disciples of the Heavenly Wrath Sect are incredibly arrogant. The first pile is converted to the second pile. Then skip directly to the fourth stake. All three stances exuded true meaning, and quite cleverly, the three stance intentions were slowly fused together. At this moment, Li Yun was surprised to see that the three stance intentions combined with his body actually formed a faint halo that enveloped the Tianu sect disciple. It acts like a protective layer. See that? You don't understand the integration of stance and intent, yet you want to get the technique. Dream on. The disciple of the Heavenly Wrath Sect deliberately glanced back at Li Yun before triumphantly reaching out and snatching the book from the young man's hands. The books were stolen. The young man immediately stood up, glaring angrily at the Tianu sect disciple, a hint of murderous intent flashing in his eyes. Strangely, when he saw the three kinds of stance intent on the young man, the murderous aura in his eyes slowly weakened and gradually dissipated. Hiss, you can do that. Is using stance training the correct way to seize the technique? A hint of joy appeared in Li Yun's eyes. I feel like I've discovered some kind of secret. As for the three types of stance fusion that the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath Sect were showing off, in his opinion, that was utter nonsense. It's child's play. In fact, in his eyes, the so-called fusion of the three stances of the Heavenly Wrath Sect disciples was not perfect at all, and was full of loopholes. If he wanted, he could easily break apart their three stances with a single finger. However, the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath Sect do not seem to have this awareness. Seeing the murderous aura in the young man's eyes gradually dissipate, he even became smug and provocative. Are you stupid? The rules stipulate that I'm protected by my stance. You can't bewitch me. You'll have to obediently let me take the technique away. Ha 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 ha. Let the dead just quietly disappear. Once I've gathered all the cultivation techniques, I will be responsible for carrying forward and promoting the core traditions of your 12 heavenly palaces. Li Yun, watching the Tianu sect disciple, taunting the young man like an idiot, Li Yun was speechless. He was too lazy to say anything. They walked straight ahead, intending to snatch the cultivation technique from the Tianu sect disciples. However, he had only taken 2 steps. Li Yun realized something was wrong. His pupils contracted, and he hurriedly withdrew and retreated once again. Then, the provoked youth's eyes flashed with intense murderous intent and rage once again, and he suddenly attacked the heavenly wrath sect. Moreover, he used his fingers together like a sword, aiming directly at the groin of the heavenly wrath sect disciple. Holy crap! The scene was simply indescribable. In that instant, Li Yun instinctively squeezed his legs together, but he still felt a chill, a strong coldness shooting up his spine. Ugh! A piercing scream rang out. The Tianu sect disciple, whose testicles had already been blown open, clutched his groin and fell 7 or 8 meters away, rolling on the ground and howling in pain. What a tragic scene. How tragic. Li Yun dared not say anything, and just watched quietly as the Tianu sect disciple fainted from the intense pain. As for the young man, he had already retrieved the cultivation technique, assumed the same posture as before, sat down, turned his back to Li Yun, and devoted himself to comprehending it. It took Li Yun a while to come to his senses. Then he walked toward the young man. He walked up behind the young man and began to assume the basic stance posture. Starting from the first stance, each stance exuded a certain spirit. Until all 12 stakes were set up, the 12 stake intentions had perfectly merged into the primordial true intent, transforming into a halo that was not dazzling, but was obviously much more resilient, with almost no gaps. Only then did he swiftly seize the martial arts manual from the young man's hand. Really? The young man's reaction was exactly the same as before. He quickly stood up, glared angrily at Li Yun, his eyes filled with murderous intent. But at first glance, the primordial essence surrounding Li Yun caused his murderous aura to quickly dissipate, turning him into a kind person. Then he became dazed, his eyes empty and lifeless. The situation is a little different. However, there's still no guarantee this guy won't attack me. Better safe than sorry. Li Yun quickly withdrew and retreated. He retreated a full 20 meters before quickly opening the manual and glancing at it. As expected, the content of the technique was still the Tianfu inner force condensation method, only slightly different from what I had obtained before. However, since it could form a connection, it should also be a part of the complete Tianfu inner force condensation method. It's also 10 pages. Li Yun quickly browsed through the information, memorized the details, and then saw that the Tianfu inner force condensation method was already loading on the system panel. He quickly put the technique back into the system. He no longer needs this technique, so it's safer to return it. The dazed youth received the cultivation manual and immediately returned to his original state, sitting back down to continue his meditation, as if nothing had ever happened. Li Yun breathed a sigh of relief. Now that the young man has sat back down, he shouldn't attack him anymore. At present, he then dragged the unconscious Tianu sect disciple further away before kicking him awake. Help me. The disciples of the heavenly wrath sect were pale-faced, and upon seeing Li Yun, immediately sought his help. Li Yun looked down at him. A look of concern appeared on his face. How about it? Does it hurt? How does it feel to get your balls blown off? Should I find 2 pebbles, roll them into balls, and put them on top of you? You. The disciple of the heavenly wrath sect was furious, but just as he was about to curse, a sharp pain shot through his groin, forcing him to swallow his words. Then she put on a pleading expression. I was wrong just now. I shouldn't have called you a coward. Please save me. I don't want to die. What does it matter to me, whether you want to die or not? Li Yun sneered, turned around and picked up 2 small stones from the ground. He then took out his ancient sword and shaved the stones into oval shapes. Tusk, tusk. What did you just say? Something strange happened in the ruins. Tell me what kind of strange thing happened. Explain clearly, or I'll put these 2 stone eggs on for you right now. Consider it as me doing a good deed. No, no. I said, you can't do this. The disciples of the Heavenly Wrath sect looked at the 2 stone eggs in Li Yun's hands with panic. Being blown up was bad enough, but if Li Yun put the stone eggs back on, would they even survive? Chapter 75 Further Sublimation, 6th Rank Inner Strength. That day, the disciple of the angry sect still died in the end. He died from the excruciating pain. Li Yun only asked him a few questions from beginning to end, without touching him at all, so there was no way he could extort money from him. But, through questioning the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath sect, Li Yun actually learned quite a bit. First, the internal conditions of this site have changed. In the past, although it wasn't so easy for disciples from the 4 top sects to find cultivation techniques, and they would occasionally encounter some strange things, at least they weren't aggressive. At most, you'll just be fooled by the people inside the ruins who have evolved from mysterious forces, and then you'll have made a wasted trip. But now, something seems to have changed inside this site, causing the people evolved from those mysterious forces to become extremely aggressive. Secondly, this time, the people who entered the ruins were not only from the 4 top sects, but also some martial artists from other sects. It is unclear how they got in. Some people discovered their trail and tried to find them to ask about the situation, but they were all avoided. Upon seeing that they were disciples of the 4 major sects, the other party immediately ran away, giving the 4 major sects no chance to communicate. Furthermore, many more martial arts techniques have appeared within the ruins. To acquire these skills, mastering the true meaning of stance training is key. Some people have already obtained relevant information and have also learned some techniques about the Tianfu internal force condensation method through the true meaning of stance training. Whether the changes occurring inside the ruins are a good thing or a bad thing is something Li Yun cannot determine. However, Li Yun believes that this is still quite advantageous at present. Because he mastered all the true meaning of stance training and even integrated it into the Hunyuan true meaning, this is something that probably no one who has entered the ruins can match. Moreover, the recent verification has indeed proven that he can obtain the desired cultivation method relatively easily with the help of Hunyuan Zheni. That's good. Most importantly, in addition to the 2 locations that Li Yun found himself, the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath sect also told him about 3 other places where similar techniques appeared. Unfortunately, of those 3 places, the Heavenly Wrath sect disciple only obtained the cultivation technique from one of them. It was precisely because he had obtained the martial arts technique from a certain place that he was so confident and arrogant. After obtaining the technique, he even provoked the young man, but he never expected that he would be killed by having his testicles blown off. All I can say is that this guy's joy turned to sorrow. But in this way, Li Yun has 2 more subjects now, or rather 2 more parts. Part of it was what I had just obtained myself, and part of it was what the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath sect had obtained in one of 3 other places, which I relayed from them. Both parts of the technique were completed during the system loading process. They are all in the beginner stage. Having had previous experience, Li Yun knew that if this part of the technique was improved to perfection, it could be integrated into the Hunyuan Gong, so he didn't hesitate. I found a place, took out my ancient sword and charged it for 2 hours, and then I gained 3.6 million knowledge points, adding to the remaining 930,000 knowledge points. He easily upgraded both parts of the technique to the highest level, and then merged them all into the Hunyuan Gong, consuming a total of 4.52 million cognition points. On the panel, all that's left is a lonely 10,000 cognition points. However, it's not a big problem. As for the concept, As long as the game is still around, you can recharge it back in a little time. The key point is that, after incorporating 2 parts of the Tianfu internal force condensation method, the overall quality of Hun Yuan Gong has been greatly enhanced. Although after the fusion, Hun Yuan Gong dropped 1 level from the perfect realm to only the great completion realm, it will take some knowledge points to make up for it. However, Li Yun was the first to test the effect. That's absolutely amazing. With the blessing of the primordial true essence and the absorption and tempering of all kinds of spiritual energy, not only did the speed of internal strength improvement double, but the quality of internal strength was also directly upgraded from the original 8th grade internal strength to the 6th grade. His internal strength quality jumped 2 ranks. It directly entered the realm of mid-grade 3-level internal strength. Even when both were at the first level of the Qi refining realm, the power of the same thunderclap fist increased several times over. This improvement even startled Li Yun himself. He then realized that his fight with Wu Yuikong in that grove of trees was somewhat lucky. Wu Yuikong's internal strength wasn't deep enough. Its quality was probably only 9th grade, which is why he was able to defeat him by force despite being only at the body tempering realm. If Wu Yuikong's internal energy quality had been higher back then, reaching the 6th rank like he does now, his thunderclap fist intent at that time would have been completely ineffective against him. Needless to say, the ending is another sad story. The younger students were too arrogant and provoked the older students, but instead they were beaten to death. This is definitely a bloody lesson, and every year from now on, the new outer disciples will be warned by the martial arts steward with this story. The advantages of high-quality internal energy compared to low-quality internal energy are simply too great. This is almost a case of higher-level energy crushing lower-level energy. No wonder Gu Zioxian takes this matter so seriously. The inheritance of the 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion can enable people to cultivate internal strength to the upper 3 grades. If such a technique is brought back to the Heavenly Martial Sect, the Heavenly Martial Sect will really have to take off from here. Several years later, the Heavenly Martial Sect may even be able to cultivate a large number of innate masters, or even more outstanding experts, by virtue of its powerful and solid outer sect foundation. Just like the 12 palaces of heaven back then, completely ruling the entire Dongyun continent is not a dream. Such an immense contribution, even if it cannot compare to the founding patriarch of the Tianwu sect, would at least rank in the top 5, enough to easily elevate Gu Zioxian to the throne of the sect's elder. Even Li Yun, once his cultivation level improves, will definitely become a true disciple and the only candidate to become the next sect leader. That level is absolutely top-notch, even in the entire Dongyun continent. Li Yun was no saint or philosopher who was unmoved by fame and fortune. How could he possibly restrain himself after being provoked like this? I rested for a while. He then went directly to 2 of the other 3 places that the Heavenly Wrath sect had provided for him. The other 2 places are one in the north, which is a gourd-shaped valley, and the other in the west, which is a small house. According to the description, by the disciples of the Heavenly Wrath sect. The small house to the west was closer to his location, so Li Yun decided to head there first. However, to his surprise, before he even reached the small house to the west, he saw a fat boy of about 17 or 18 years old, clutching a book with a black cover, running frantically in his direction. He ran while shouting for help. Behind the fat man, a plump woman in her 30s was chasing after him, brandishing a sword and gritting her teeth as if she had a deep-seated grudge. Chapter 76 Fatty. My name is Mei Jaren. Ah, brother, help me. From afar, the fat man spotted Li Yun and immediately shouted. Without hesitation, Li Yun dodged and made way for the fat man. Knowing that the other man was running away, he wouldn't do something so impolite as to block his way. However, just as Li Yun had moved away, a whooshing sound suddenly came from behind him. Li Yun subconsciously reached out and slapped the book in his hand, only to find that it was the same black-covered book that the fat man had just been holding. Grass. Li Yun immediately realized something was wrong. He looked up and, sure enough, saw the fat woman who had been chasing the fat man relentlessly now charging towards him. "Brother, cover for me for a bit. I can't run anymore. I'll come back and relieve you after I've rested." "Thanks." On the other side, the fat man shouted something to Li Yun again, then turned and ran. His figure and speed were even more agile than a rabbit. "You fatsa. Don't you dare let me catch you, or I'll show you what it means to question your existence." Li Yun was so angry that his jaw almost buckled. He quickly tucked the black book into his robes, and before the fat woman could attack, assumed a basic stance, releasing his primordial true intent. The fat woman was indeed stunned, staring intently at Li Yun, her eyes gradually turning blank. It really works. Li Yun was secretly delighted, but he didn't know how long the fat woman would stay in this state, so he quickly took out the black book and started reading. As expected, it's another part of the Tianfu inner strength condensation method. Although he was tricked by the fat man, this was exactly what Li Yun wanted, so he could only ignore it for now and read it first. Only when the new condensed martial arts technique appeared on the panel did he quickly throw the black book back to the fat woman. After the fat woman got the black book back, she regained her senses and turned to leave without even looking at Li Yun, as if protecting the book was her mission. As long as the black book wasn't lost, everything would be fine. Li Yun watched the fat woman walk away and breathed a sigh of relief. But remembering how the fat man had tricked him, he couldn't help but grit his teeth and, without thinking, chased after the direction the fat man had left in. Coincidentally, that direction coincided with the gourd-shaped valley to the north that he was going to go next. It was on the way anyway. After chasing for a while, Li Yun still couldn't see the fat man, so he had to give up the idea of pursuing him. They then headed ahead to the gourd-shaped valley. Before long, a gourd-shaped valley came into view. Inside the valley was a banana grove, lush and green, a truly vibrant and lively scene. Just as Li Yun was about to go in, he suddenly heard a sound coming from the banana grove. "Fatty, are you even capable of this?" "Sure, why not? Trust me, that guy is obviously a pervert. Go up to him, put my treasured copy of Spring Garden that I've kept for 18 years in front of him, open it to him, and his eyes will definitely pop out. Then you can get the cultivation manual from him and toss it to me. He can't catch up with my speed. Then I'll find someone else to trick, and then I'll have all the condensation techniques I need." "What do you mean, all done? That fat woman in the little house on the west side almost killed you." "That's different. The situation is different." "Heh, that's definitely different. You just pulled down someone's pants. If it were me, I'd be your sworn enemy too." Enough nonsense. Hurry up and get to the cultivation technique. This place belongs to the 4 major sects, not us. We're already incredibly lucky to have gotten in. Let's quickly gather our cultivation techniques and make a run for it. If we get caught, we're all doomed. Yes. In the banana grove, 2 boys, one fat and one thin, around 17 or 18 years old, were whispering to each other. The thin boy nodded and got up, about to emerge, when suddenly the light in front of him dimmed. I instinctively took a step back. "Hey, who is it?" He didn't notice that the fat man behind him had frozen in place. "Hee, brother, we meet again." Li Yun flashed out, his mocking gaze landing on the fat man who was half squatting. "Are you taking a dump or looking for a dump?" As he spoke, he moved with lightning speed, grabbing at the fat man's chest. Whoosh! The fat man quickly sprang to his feet, his body twisting and turning strangely as he managed to get past Li Yun. Li Yun actually missed this time. Good heavens! Li Yun was quite surprised. This fat man looked like he weighed less than 200 pounds, but his body was more agile than a monkey's. This was unbelievable. However, he had been testing the waters with his grab just now and hadn't used his full strength. Because he had long ago discovered that the fat man was not from one of the 4 major sects, but a rogue martial artist who entered the ruins through other channels. Since such martial artists did not go through the radiant platform, there was no restriction that they had to be below the refinement realm to enter. The details are unclear. His cultivation level is also unknown. We must test the waters. Upon testing, he discovered that the fat man was indeed not in the body tempering realm, but in the strength refining realm. It seems a bit odd that someone with this level of cultivation would use an internal energy condensation method. Li Yun decided to go all out and first take down the fat man to find out what was going on. Tiger Tamming Fist. Immediately, Li Yun clenched his fist and unleashed another punch. This time, he not only used his internal strength, but also made no attempt to conceal his fist intent. With a single punch, he unleashed a ferocious force, like a tiger descending a mountain. The fat man was immediately startled and dodged left and right, while simultaneously using both hands to unleash a skillful fist technique to block. The two exchanged punches, going over a dozen times. He suddenly took a direct hit head-on. This punch sent both Li Yun and the fat man flying. Good heavens! Sharp! As soon as they regained their footing, their expressions became much more serious. Li Yun discovered that the fat man's cultivation was indeed not weak, and his internal strength was profound, at least at the 4th level of the refinement realm. Although the quality of his internal strength was slightly inferior, it was definitely at the 7th grade. The fat man also discovered that Li Yun's internal strength was not profound enough, but its quality was extremely high, even surpassing his own. What's frightening is that his skill in boxing is quite high. If it really came down to a fight, he might not be a match for Li Yun. And so, the fat man quickly put on a smile again. Brother, it's a misunderstanding, a real misunderstanding. I didn't mean to trick you, and I wasn't planning to. I was going to take the cultivation technique here and then call my friend to help you. Besides, you come from a prestigious sect, possess extraordinary strength, and are incredibly handsome. You're practically eclipsing the sun and moon. So please don't bother with a nobody like me who's not conventionally attractive. Let's leave it at that. I'll share with you a cultivation technique I got from somewhere else, and we can make friends while we're at it. How about it? Let me state my name first. It's Mei Jaren. Chapter 77, Good Heavens, there's an unexpected bonus. Mei Jaren. Li Yun's lips twitched involuntarily. Damn it, you fatso, do you think I'm an idiot? Boom. Li Yun used the flying star step, his fist striking like thunder, and he slammed it down again. Hey, we agreed to be friends. Why did you start hitting me again? The fat man's expression changed, and he had no choice but to raise his fist to meet the attack again. The two clashed fiercely. The skinny guy next to him had his eyes darting around, and he quietly moved a few steps, seizing the opportunity to slap Li Yun hard on the back as well. However, Li Yun wasn't blind enough to miss the skinny guy. He had already anticipated the skinny guy's sneak attack. Li Yun breathed a sigh of relief when he made his move. No need to keep hanging on by a thread and worrying about your back anymore. But this turns it into a 2-against-1 situation. As the one in the duel, Li Yun clearly felt the pressure, but fortunately it was still within his tolerance. His studies were quite diverse. He possessed several martial arts skills. In addition, having only recently mastered internal energy and not yet fully adapted, this combat opportunity is a perfect chance to hone one's skills and strive to develop a fighting style of one's own. The so-called combat tactics do not refer to the practice of a specific martial art. Rather, it is the comprehensive application of all one's knowledge to combat. Being able to learn and apply knowledge is an essential quality for a truly powerful martial artist. This is much more difficult than simply practicing a certain martial art. Once a martial art is mastered through closed-door training, how to apply it, when to apply it, and to what extent to apply it with the least effort. All of this requires a keen sense of smell and judgment, as well as a large number of life-and-death battles to cultivate, and finally to form a powerful combat technique. If a martial art is merely a required course for a martial artist at a certain stage, then the art of combat is a required course that lasts a lifetime. The relative importance of each is self-evident. At present, Li Yun has experienced very few battles. The only battle that could be considered a life-or-death struggle was the fight with Wu Yuikong and the others in the woods that night, which relied on his superior martial arts skills. In terms of tactics, we are far from meeting the bar. Even now, facing two boys, one fat and one thin, he can hold his own against them by unleashing the true essence of several martial arts such as Thunder Fist and Tiger Subduing Fist, without being at a disadvantage. However, he still hasn't truly reached the threshold of combat techniques. Most of the time, they rely on their own intuition to execute martial arts techniques. In the eyes of a truly skilled martial artist, this is absolutely naive and closer to brute force. However, experience is accumulated. Insights are gradually accumulated through battles. Tactics are something that can't be rushed. He didn't, and neither did the fat and thin boys opposite him. The two sides fought each other brute force, focusing on a head-on confrontation, and the fight became more and more intense. Especially the chubby and thin boys, there was a growing sense of unease as the fight progressed. Li Yun could tell at a glance that he was younger than them and hadn't been practicing martial arts for very long. Not only had he mastered internal energy, but he had also cultivated several body-tempering realm martial arts to a level that was considered to be consummate and divine. True meaning emerges from every door. This is the first time I've encountered this. If this kind of person is given enough time, what will become of him? He is definitely a martial arts master. Making an enemy of someone like that is practically suicide. Less than 10 minutes. Both the fat and thin boys began to consider quitting. The two exchanged a glance and quickly reached a tacit understanding. Suddenly, the fat man pulled something out of his inner pocket and quickly threw it at Li Yun. "Bro, here's the stuff, we're not fighting anymore." Li Yun didn't know what it was, so of course he couldn't reach out to take it. He instinctively dodged, and the fat and thin boys took the opportunity to retreat far away. The fat man was a little out of breath, but he still had a smile on his face. Pointing to the small, pale green piece of wood, about the thickness of a thumb, that had fallen to the ground, he said, "Brother, it's a misunderstanding. I'll give you a piece of 1,000-year-old wood heartwood, and we'll call it even, okay?" Li Yun paused for a moment, glanced at the small half of the wooden block that had fallen to the ground, and looked somewhat surprised and suspicious. Is this the heartwood of a 1,000-year-old tree? The name sounds impressive, but what's the use? That fat guy looks shameless and black-hearted. If it were really something good, would he be willing to just take it out like that? Out of distrust of the fat man, Li Yun remained unmoved. "HMPH, you think you can just call it even? It's not that simple. If I didn't have some tricks up my sleeve, I would be finished after you tricked me like that." "You mean you owe me your life, you know that?" "You owe me a life, and now you're just offering me a random piece of wood as some kind of 1,000-year-old heartwood, trying to even things out. Do you think I'm stupid?" "Hey, how can you talk like that?" The skinny boy was a little unhappy. "You call yourself a disciple of the heavenly martial sect. Do you even know anything? That's a 1,000-year-old wood core. Fatty and I searched deep in the mountains for half a year to get a piece, and it weighed less than 2 pounds. We were even reluctant to use it ourselves, and we gave you half. You're still complaining. If you don't want it, fine. Just throw the Millennium Wood heart over to us. If you want to fight, then keep fighting. Anyway, it's 2 against 1, so we're not at a disadvantage." The fat man quickly tugged at the skinny boy's sleeve. He was clearly more slippery. It was obvious at a glance that Li Yun didn't trust him, which was why he dared not accept the 1,000-year-old wood heart. He gritted his teeth and walked over. He picked up the 1,000-year-old wood heart from the ground and walked straight up to Li Yun. He said sincerely, "Brother, it's not easy to make a living in the martial arts world. There's no need to fight to the death over such a trivial matter, is there? This piece of 1,000-year-old wood core was indeed something we searched for in the mountains for half a year before finally finding it. We haven't been willing to use it, thinking we'd trade it for a martial arts technique or something else someday. Giving you half now is really to clear up any misunderstandings. Also, I want to sincerely apologize to you. It was really my fault for messing with you earlier. Since things have come to this point, it seems pointless for Li Yun to keep pressing the issue. Most importantly, Li Yun always felt that this fat man was not simple. If he really pushed him to the brink and he fought to the death, he might have to pay a heavy price. In places like this, it's best to play it safe. So he smiled. If that's how you put it, then fine. I'll accept your 1,000-year-old heartwood, but shouldn't you tell me your name and how you got here? Li Yun reached out and took the small piece of 1,000-year-old wood core, intending to put it in his pocket. He didn't know what it was used for yet, and thought he would ask Gu Xiaoxian about it after he got out. I never expected this. The 1,000-year-old heartwood has just been acquired. The system suddenly responded. Observing the 1,000-year-old willow tree, knowledge points increased by 100. At the same time, a new martial art suddenly popped up in the martial arts section of the panel. Willow wood body refinement technique loading. Li Yun's hand trembled involuntarily. He exclaimed inwardly in surprise. Good heavens, there was an unexpected bonus. Chapter 78, The Cunning Fat Man. Li Yun truly didn't expect that the fat man's act of giving up a piece of 1,000-year-old wood to end the battle would also bring him a martial arts technique. This means that this 1,000-year-old heartwood is truly extraordinary. The fat man's sincerity in wanting to resolve the conflict was genuine. However, now was not the time to study this, so Li Yun quietly put the 1,000-year-old wood core into the inner pocket of his robe. The way he looked at the fat man became much kinder. Hey, fatty, what's your name? How did you manage to sneak in here without the help of the 4 major sects? The fat man said quietly, Would you believe me if I said this was an accident? Li Yun was naturally skeptical, but there was no point in exposing him, so he went along with the fat man's lead and started chatting with him. According to the fat man, his real name is Pang Yu, and the thin man's name is Zian. The two were buddies who met and became friends while hanging out. They wandered around aimlessly in order to practice martial arts, and recently, after hearing rumors about the ruins of the 12 palaces of Tianfu, they decided to come and try their luck. However, since the two were not from the 4 top sects, they were unable to enter the ruins through the radiant platform, so they wandered around with the others. After accidentally entering a cave, I fell into a pit. After reappearing, it entered the interior of the ruins on its own. Li Yun was skeptical of this explanation, but he had no intention of expelling them. To put it bluntly, the ruins of the 12 palaces of Tianfu did not belong to any one person. If someone gets in, they're lucky. Why should he care so much? What interested him more was how many copies of the Tianfu inner force condensation method the fat man had acquired. He hadn't forgotten that the fat man had just tried to settle things by sharing the Tianfu inner force condensation method. The fat guy dared to say that, so he should have gained something from it at least. If there were enough of them, Li Yun wouldn't mind exchanging with them, which would save him the trouble of searching for them himself. The time saved can be used to accumulate more knowledge points and improve his strength sooner. When Li Yun proposed the exchange, the fat man was clearly very interested. He slapped Li Yun across the face. He told Li Yun that, excluding the time he tricked Li Yun before, he had obtained a total of 5 Heavenly Mansion inner force condensation method, or more precisely, 5 parts of it. This number really startled Li Yun. Good heavens, this is really good heavens. Li Yun thought about himself. He had been inside the ruins for quite some time. He had been working steadily, and with a bit of luck, he had only managed to obtain 4 parts of the condensation method. It turns out that this fat guy actually had more than him. Awesome. Li Yun couldn't help but give the fat man a thumbs up. He had to admit that although the fat man was shameless and ruthless, he was indeed a capable person. However, he wasn't interested in finding out how the fat man had acquired so many condensation methods. What he cared about was whether the 5 condensation methods the fat man possessed overlapped with the ones he currently had. So he and the fat man confirmed it to each other. The result was a pleasant surprise. There is no overlap. The 5 parts of the condensation method that the fat man has mastered are all things that Li Yun is currently missing. Without hesitation, Li Yun chose to switch places with the fat man. Li Yun controlled 4 parts, while the fat man controlled 5. Li Yun clearly had 1 less part than the fat man, so the exchange was obviously a loss for the fat man. However, the fat man didn't intend to make a fuss and waved his hand dismissively. It's changed. Making good friends is the most important thing. You can't be short of money. Without saying a word, he relayed the 5-part condensation method he had mastered to Li Yun, and in return, he took the 4 parts that Li Yun had mastered. This made Li Yun feel a little embarrassed. He didn't intend to take advantage of the fat man. He glanced at the depths of the banana grove, then turned and walked straight in. Deep within this banana grove, there are still some cultivation techniques they haven't obtained. Originally, Fatty planned to use underhanded methods to get them. Now that we have Li Yun, things are much easier. Having found his target, Li Yun revealed the primordial chaos' true meaning, and the cultivation technique was easily obtained. The fat man and the skinny boy Zion were stunned and exclaimed that it was awesome. Zion even teased the fat man on the spot. Hey Fatty, did you see that? Li Yun is really something else. The tricks you came up with, like pulling down pants or showing erotic pictures, they're just too embarrassing. The fat man's face softened slightly, and he said confidently, what do you know? Getting the cultivation technique is the best approach. What does face matter? Right, Li Yun. Li Yun smiled slightly and gave the fat man a thumbs up. What could he say? After sharing the newly acquired condensation method with the fat man, the two parted ways. They each left the banana grove. But not long after he left, Li Yun quietly returned to the banana grove. He thought this place was good, and the banana grove provided cover for him, making it perfect for observing the ancient sword and gaining more knowledge. This time, I acquired 7 condensation techniques in one go. To cultivate them all to perfection and then integrate them into the Hun Yuan Gong, I need quite a few points of knowledge. It's absolutely impossible to master without at least 10 hours of observation. He had to race against time. Meanwhile, after leaving the banana grove, the fat man and Zion also quickly moved away and hid in a small valley. They looked around and only breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that Li Yun had not followed them. Luckily, Li Yun was reasonable enough not to chase after us. The fat man said with a look of relief. Zion's eyes widened immediately, his face full of confusion. Fatty, really? You're still wary of Li Yun? Didn't we already make peace with him and exchange cultivation techniques? See how naive you are. Things aren't that simple. Don't forget where this is. This place is considered the exclusive domain of the 4 top sects. No one who is not a disciple of the 4 top sects is allowed to enter. If Li Yun, as a disciple of the Tianwu sect, were to betray us, we would have no recourse. No way. Li Yun seems like he's easy to get along with. It's true that you're easy to get along with, but that's just on the surface. There's a saying, you can know a person's face but not their heart. It's easy to draw a tiger's skin but hard to draw its bones, you know. We revealed quite a bit of ourselves in front of him. especially the 1,000-year-old heartwood. I deliberately didn't tell him about the function of the 1,000-year-old heartwood. But if he knew it himself, he might not be able to resist the urge to take a liking to the other piece of 1,000-year-old heartwood on our bodies. We should stay as far away as possible, understand? Besides, we've been here for quite a while now, and following that map, we've amassed quite a few good things. Now, let's take a good rest before exploring the real core. If we can get our hands on that pearl, we'll truly be set for life. Chapter 79, Third Grade Internal Force, Powerful Willow Wood Body Refining Technique. Upon hearing the mention of Beiju, Zion became excited, yet also seemed somewhat doubtful. Fatty, does that precious pearl really exist? Yes, absolutely. Have you forgotten who my ancestor was? He was an elder of the 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion. He survived by sheer luck and left the map behind. With his understanding of the 12 palaces of Heavenly Mansion, how could he be wrong? A gleam of extreme excitement unconsciously appeared in the fat man's slightly squinted eyes. That precious pearl is an object from outer space. Back then, not many people in the 12 palaces of heaven knew of its existence. My ancestors only learned of its existence by sheer coincidence. According to the records he left behind, that precious pearl possesses incredible power. Whoever obtains it can even defy the immortals. A rebellious immortal. The legendary immortals can pluck stars and seize the moon as easily as plucking them from the sky, move mountains and fill seas as easily as turning their palms, and even live forever. Martial artists are as weak as ants in front of immortals. If the two of us brothers could obtain that kind of divine power, pshaw, what are martial artists then? Even if we demanded that the king of Xuanyue get out of here and give us his throne to sit on, he wouldn't dare utter a sound. Yes, that kind of power is so fascinating, but Fatty, where exactly is the precious pearl? Zion was also captivated by what the fat man said. I wish I could dig out the pearl right now, kiss it, and then immediately ascend to heaven and become an immortal. In the blink of an eye, a day has passed. In the banana grove, Li Yun casually ate some of the dry rations he had brought to fill his stomach, and then opened the control panel. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, middle grade 3. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired, first level of strength refinement, 3rd grade inner strength. Martial arts, Willow Wood Body Refining Technique, understanding, Hunyuan Gong perfected, Sorrowful Wind Sword Technique, perfected, Zhenyu Mountain Sword, understanding, Hunyuan stance intent, Silk Entangling Force intent, Revering Fate Technique, minor success, Thunderclap Fist intent, Flying Star Step intent. Can be expanded. Martial arts knowledge points, 10.02 million. Times of day. He continuously recharged, and with the support of his vast knowledge points, he integrated all the internal energy condensation methods he had obtained into the Hunyuan Gong in one go, greatly improving the quality of the Hunyuan Gong. Then, by relying on the points of understanding, the realm of Hunyuan Gong can be brought to perfection. After resuming training, although his cultivation level remained unchanged, and his total internal energy was still at the first level of the refinement realm, the quality of his internal energy improved dramatically, rising from the bottom of the 6th rank of the middle 3rd rank to the 3rd rank in one go. Don't underestimate this small 3rd grade improvement. It has already raised Li Yun's internal energy quality to the upper 3rd grade. With this level of internal strength, among the 100,000 outer disciples of the Heavenly Martial Sect, he is absolutely unique. No, to be precise, even if you include the Heavenly Wrath Sect, the Heavenly Flame Sect, and the Heavenly Business Sect, it is still unique and one of a kind. This really made Li Yun incredibly proud. From 6th grade internal energy to 3rd grade internal energy, his actual combat strength has increased by an unknown amount. However, if he were to fight Fatty Pang Yu and Skinny Zion again, and it were still a 1-against-2 situation, he would definitely win easily. To Li Yun's surprise, his superior third-grade internal energy was already able to slightly activate the sorrowful wind sword technique and the Mount Zhenyu sword. Although it is far inferior to being driven by innate true qi, with the ancient sword in hand, one can unleash a high-quality sword technique, and even with all one's strength, one can only swing one sword. But the power of this sword also surpasses all others. It is definitely his strongest killing move at present. Once it is unleashed, it will surely kill anyone below the true qi realm at will. This can be considered as him truly possessing his trump card. Through my understanding, I'm getting stronger and stronger. However, this is not the limit. Li Yun glanced at the newly added martial art, willow wood body refinement technique, in the martial arts section, and then looked at the tens of millions of knowledge points still remaining. The corners of his mouth immediately turned up slightly. This is a martial art from a 1,000-year-old tree. Like the sorrowful wind sword technique, this martial art comes from nature and is an innate martial art. Its power should not be underestimated. Let's try it out first. A thought flickered in my mind. 100,000 points of knowledge have disappeared. Before long, he easily comprehended the willow wood body refinement technique and directly entered the beginner level. As Li Yun pondered the profound mysteries of the willow wood body refinement technique in his mind, his eyes lit up. This was actually a body refinement martial art, and not just any ordinary one. The so-called body refining martial arts are different from the body tempering martial arts. Both involve tempering the body, but the martial arts of the body tempering realm are only basic tempering. After reaching a certain limit, it is difficult to make any further significant progress. One must condense internal energy to continue to increase martial arts strength. Body refining martial arts are different. It is entirely about refining and improving the physical body to a higher level, a unique cultivation method that completely abandons internal force and true qi. This kind of martial art is very rare. Back when he was in the Tianwu sect, he had some exchanges with Gu Xiaoxian, Zhang Kong, and Zhang Ruhan. At that time, he knew that the Tianwu sect also had body-refining martial arts, but there were only a few of them. These body-refining martial arts techniques have been stored in the armory for over 100 years, yet no one has ever bothered to look for them. Why? Because body-refining martial arts are extremely resource-intensive, time-consuming, and laborious, and the results are not significant. Even with ample resources, it would take at least 4 or 5 years to reach the peak of the acquired realm with the few body-refining martial arts techniques in the heavenly martial sect's arsenal. Moreover, there is no method to further break through and advance to the innate realm. Given the same amount of time and resources, those with higher aptitude would have already reversed their innate limitations and advanced to the inner sect by condensing their inner strength and cultivating true qi. Given the contrast, who would choose body-refining martial arts? If a disciple were to choose body-refining martial arts for cultivation, he would probably be considered a fool. In short, body tempering is not easy, and resources are hard to come by. However, this willow wood body refinement method is different. It was born from a 1,000-year-old willow tree and systematically summarized, making it an innate skill from birth. Therefore, as long as one can cultivate it to perfection, one will naturally possess an innate body. Moreover, it can form a special constitution, the willow wood spirit body. At that time, not only will the entire physical body become extremely powerful, allowing one to withstand experts at the innate realm with just physical strength, but the physical body will also be elevated to the extreme, containing a more abundant vitality than ordinary people, thus increasing lifespan by at least 30 years. How could one not practice such martial arts? Just kidding. Even if it costs us everything, we have to gather all the resources. However, before we gather enough resources, Li Yun decided to first improve the theory of this martial art. No matter what kind of martial art it is, There is a huge difference between practicing it blindly and practicing it only after it has been perfected. Chapter 80, The Fat Man's Crisis. 200,000 plus, 400,000 plus, 800,000 plus, 1,600,000 plus, 3,200,000 plus, 6,400,000. Li Yun spent another 12.6 million cognition points to push the willow wood body refinement technique to its peak. With what he had left, it was clearly not enough. But with the ancient sword in hand, he was not afraid at all, as he could get 1.8 million knowledge points in an hour. He just had to stop and spend another 2 hours to collect knowledge points. There was still 920,000 left after everything was done. It's not a big deal at all. His attainment of perfection in his realm allowed him to fully comprehend all the mysteries of the willow wood body refinement method. From the overall direction of cultivation to every single detail, everything is clear and understandable. It was at this time that he was pleasantly surprised to discover that the small piece of 1,000-year-old wood core that had given birth to the willow wood body refinement method for him was itself an excellent resource to assist him in body refinement. So he took out that piece of 1,000-year-old wood heartwood, put it to his mouth, and started gnawing on it raw. One small bite, and it's surprisingly crunchy. It wasn't as bad as he had imagined. On the contrary, it tasted sweet and delicious, like chewing on sugar cane. However, the energy contained in the 1,000-year-old wood heart was too great. After swallowing just a small sip, it formed a powerful force that impacted the physical body. The impact was so strong that even his skin cracked slightly, not to mention his internal organs, which were churned up like a raging sea. Fortunately, he had cultivated the reverse fate technique and developed extremely strong resilience. In addition, his physique was already strong, so when he reached the body tempering realm, he reached the 14th level of body tempering, a level that no one had ever achieved before. He gritted his teeth and endured it. If it were anyone else, trying to eat 1,000-year-old heartwood raw like that, even just a small bite would probably kill them on the spot. Strong medicines are good, but they can also be extremely poisonous. Not just anyone can withstand it. Otherwise, martial artists wouldn't need to go to such lengths to turn rare and precious materials that are difficult to consume directly into elixirs. This is to reduce the excessively potent medicinal power contained in some strong medicines. However, while this reduces the potency of the medicine and makes it easier for martial artists to absorb and utilize, it also introduces an unavoidable amount of toxicity. Li Yunsheng gnawed on the heartwood of a 1,000-year-old tree, thus reducing the risk of erysipelas. Even so, after withstanding the initial impact, Li Yun quickly began cultivating according to the essence of the willow wood body refining method, actively guiding and refining the medicinal power. The benefits of first elevating the skill to perfection also became immediately apparent. His perfect control over the technique allowed him to easily suppress the rampant medicinal power. He not only prevented the medicinal power from causing serious damage to his body, but also blocked its loss. In a very short time, he used all the medicinal power generated by the 1,000-year-old wood heart to temper his physical body. I wouldn't say the whole process was 100% perfect, but it was at least 97% perfect. That's how awesome it is. After the medicinal effects of biting into the heartwood of a 1,000-year-old tree were completely exhausted, Li Yun clearly felt that his physique had become stronger again, and it was a breakthrough strength. If we continue to use the classification of the body tempering realm, he could be directly called the 15th level of body tempering. One can only truly appreciate the flavor of something after tasting its marrow. Li Yun had no intention of stopping and took out the 1,000-year-old wood heartwood to gnaw on again. After finishing, he started eating again, repeating the cycle. The small piece of 1,000-year-old wood core that the fat man gave him, weighing about a pound, was completely devoured by him in just 2 hours. The medicinal effects tempered his physical body to unprecedented strength. If we still use the term body tempering realm, he himself can't even tell how many levels of body tempering he should be called. If we have to say, then it should be at least the 20th level of body tempering or higher. On the surface, he looked no different from usual, still thin and tall, but only he knew that the power in his body was unprecedented at this moment. If he were to unleash it completely, it would probably exceed 10,000 jin, or more than 5 tons. If an ordinary cultivator at the Qi refining realm were to possess such power, they would be able to crush them with a single punch. Open the system panel. Host, Li Yun. Age, 16. Qualification, middle grade 3. Constitution, Willow Wood Spirit Body under refinement, 11%. Identity, outer disciple of the 95th Academy of the Tianwu sect. Realm, acquired, first level of strength refinement, 3rd grade inner strength. Martial arts, Willow Wood Body Refining Technique, perfected. Hunyuan Gong, perfected. Sorrowful Wind Sword Technique, perfected. Zhenyu Mountain Sword, beginner. Hunyuan Stance intent. Entangling Silk Force intent. Revering Fate Technique, minor success. Thunderclap Fist intent. Flying Star Step intent. Can be expanded. Martial arts knowledge points, 920,000. On the panel, there was a new line for physique. The Willow Wood Spirit Body is still in the process of condensation, and the process has only reached 11%, which is much lower than he expected. However, Li Yun was not disappointed. The lower the current progress, the stronger it will be after it is perfected, right? If the progress is increased to over 50% after only a little bit of cultivation, then this Willow Wood Spirit Body would probably be worthless. However, this would require a lot of resources to be provided subsequently. Cultivating the Willow Wood Spirit Body requires a large number of wood attribute spiritual herbs and even rare and precious materials. These things are not easy to obtain, and even if you can get them, it will cost a lot of money. Li Yun couldn't help but chuckle. Wasn't this forcing me to make money? Suddenly. Then he remembered that Fatty Pang Yu still had a piece of 1,000-year-old wood core. Could he find a way to get it? We can always trade it. Didn't Fatty say that he originally wanted to trade the 1,000-year wood heart for martial arts techniques? He has this. If all else fails, he has another trick up his sleeve. He can give the fat man some pointers on how to refine and integrate his internal energy. Surely the fat man won't be able to resist the temptation. Thinking of this, Li Yun couldn't sit still for even a moment. With a flash, he quickly disappeared from the banana grove, preparing to search again for the condensation method and the fat man's whereabouts. Crack! Suddenly, a fierce fighting sound came from inside. Li Yun's heart stirred slightly, and he followed the sound, only to find the fighting not far away. Good heavens! It was Fatty Pang Yu again. This guy and Zai and must have offended someone, because they were surrounded by 4 or 5 people only 700 or 800 meters away from the gourd-shaped valley. Those 4 or 5 people were clearly not disciples of the 4 major sects, but each of them was a master of the refining strength realm. They were frantically attacking the fat man and Zian, their attacks extremely fierce, as if they were aiming to kill them. The fat man was clearly no match for Zian. Faced with the siege of 5 experts at the refinement realm, he fought and retreated, covered in injuries, but was unable to break free from their encirclement. The situation is already quite critical. Li Yun narrowed his eyes slightly. This fat man was retreating towards the valley while fighting. Could it be that he had already guessed that Li Yun would come back here, so he retreated this way in hopes of getting Li Yun's help? If that's the case, then this fat guy is really quite cunning.